I'm your host, sabrinasalvati. I'm your host, sabrinasalvati. I'm your host, sabrinasalvati. I'm your host, sabrinasalvati. All right. Welcome to Sabby Sabs podcast. I'm your host, sabrinasalvati. Welcome back, guys, and happy Thursday. We have a pretty big show tonight. Tonight's theme is They Want Chaos, but of course, not with our first guest. We have another guest who's going to be joining us around 8:30, and that is Garland Nixon. So I do want to get things started with our panel first. We're actually starting off with good news. Which is needed at this point in time. So let's go ahead and show you that thumbnail so you can see what we are discussing tonight, ladies and gents. Tonight, we are discussing Theo Von and Dave Smith turn. Oh, this is not a good one. This is not a good one. They have decided to lay it all out on the table. Big story here, and it is not good, obviously, for the Trump administration. We're also going to discuss, if you haven't heard by now, that ICE shooting. A woman, an American citizen, was killed by an ICE agent the other day. Everybody's talking about this story. Garland Nixon is actually going to join. And I don't know if everyone knows this, but Garland Nixon used to be a law enforcement officer. So he's going to join. And I don't know what he's going to say about it because we haven't talked about it. But I want him to give that other perspective. And you guys know I have my take, so you know where I'm going to be coming with this. We're also going to discuss, this is a big one. Donald Trump just increased the defense budget by 1.5 trillion. This is a big deal. What are they getting ready for? We're also going to discuss, again, another win, another good story, and that is coming out of New York City. It appears they are moving towards universal childcare in New York City. That's a good one. But first up, I want to go ahead and bring in my panel here. They are bringing in good news from my state of Massachusetts. You have seen them here before. Last time they came on, they were promoting, or they were trying to get a bill passed in the State House for a Freedmen Affairs Committee. And it seems as though now we have good news. So let's go ahead and bring them in. I'll let them introduce themselves. Welcome.
Welcome.
Hello.
Hi, hey, can
Sabby.
you see me?
I can see you.
Hello, how you doing?
Hello.
Welcome.
How are you? Good evening. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. I think there's a little bit of a delay. So if I can just ask everyone just to mute really quick,
yes.
If you're not speaking. And then when you speak, just go ahead and unmute. So I want to let everyone introduce themselves. Let's start with Naheem.
Hey, everybody, how you doing? Glad to be back on Sabby Sabs. Happy New Year's. Shout out to everybody that's listening. I am Naheem Wade, president and co-founder of United Sons and Daughters of Freedom.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Antonia. Just got to unmute yourself, Antonia.
Unmute?
There you go.
We can hear you. It won't unmute.
You're unmuted. I'll explain to everybody. Yeah, we can hear you. This is Antonia. Antonia also, she's a part of the reparations task force here in Boston.
Okay.
And then Ali.
Hey, how's it going? This is Brother Ali, co-founder of the United Sons and Daughters of Freedmen, also the director of history and research for the organization.
Okay, so let's go ahead and we'll get started with Naheem. Last time you guys were here, you were talking about this bill. Let me go ahead and bring this up on the screen here. It's called Bill H4351. It's an act to establish a Massachusetts Agency of Freedmen Affairs. And Antonia reached out to me over the holidays to tell me some good news. I think she might be having some connection issues. So I'll go ahead and pivot to you, Naheem. What is the news about this bill currently now?
Well, the bill has gone through a joint committee, and I have my notes here so I can get everything correct. That joint committee is the State Administration and Regulatory Oversight. It was a 10-person committee. All 10 committee persons voted in the affirmative on the bill, and they gave it what's called an ought to pass. In Massachusetts legislative procedure, an ought to pass is the strongest committee recommendation that a bill can receive, which means that the committee agrees with the substance of the bill. The committee believes that the bill should move forward and that the bill is not being rejected, delayed, or sent to study. My team and I put in a lot of work, especially with the Judiciary Committee of the state of Massachusetts, proving that freedmen's status is the way that we should be moving with this bill to avoid the pitfalls of strict scrutiny, Supreme Court challenges, and the usual attacks that come from people that don't believe that we should receive any remedial justice.
Okay, really quick, Ali. So basically what you're saying is that this bill has now made it out of committee, which I see as a positive thing.
Absolutely. It's made it out of committee. It looks like we're gonna get ourselves an agency in that state. That's what it looks like, Sabby. You know,
this is a really big deal, you guys. I know we hear a lot of bad news recently, and it's really good to have some good news. Antonia, could you explain to everyone again what is the significance of this bill? And I'll go ahead and put it up on the screen here for people.
Sure. So just historically, the team and I have worked really hard across the nation and specifically in Massachusetts to enforce American freedmen status. And as the brothers have said, it's a class, it's a status for a class of people who are formally emancipated. And so we have 4 million formerly emancipated slaves who are enslaved in the United States that have gone unnoticed. And through Reconstruction period, all those things that were promised to us were really reneged on. And this status still is the 13th Amendment. It's still prevalent. We just have never enforced it. because we have all these initiatives that are going across the nation for reparations that we haven't ignited. It was united by other people. We basically wanted to make sure that the verbiage and the language in any legislation is correct. And so, because we don't focus on race-based initiatives or legislation, we basically make sure that we advocate highly for American freedmen status. And that's a non-racial status. It's based on heritage. It's based on a class of people who have this status through the 13th Amendment, based on the Emancipation Proclamation. And we thought it was important that if we're going to have anything tied to reparations, we wanted to make sure that we had an Office of Freedmen Affairs. And it kind of mirrors the Freedmen's Bureau that was basically dismantled and disheveled. So we're wanting to make sure that our lineage and our heritage and status as this class of people are recognized. And I think it's really important, especially in light of that we just don't have people who speak about our heritage just being erased every day. And so that's why it was important for the team to make sure that this was a high advocacy project. And it's historical. We're really proud of the accomplishments we made. Really proud. So for us and for the United States and for Massachusetts, this is really historical. And we want to make sure that we celebrated it with you, because it was because of you that we were able to initially bring it out to the community. And so we thought that when we released this information, because we've known since December that after the holidays, we were able to share it on your platform. So we thank you.
I'm so proud of you guys. Like, I really am. Could you explain to everyone what was the process like for people watching? Let's say they may want to submit a bill to their state house for whatever issue that they're trying to advocate for. What was the process that you had to go through to get this done?
So I'm going to be perfectly honest with you. A lot of people ask us, what are the step-by-step, processes to get this done? And so basically, a lot of people don't know that your state reps and your senators basically work on behalf of you. The brothers, I think Josh is missing, and Abraham and Naheem and Ali sat down, and we all wanted to write this proposal. And they can tell you more about the in-depth process of the proposal. I took it to the state rep, who was Brandy Fluker Reed. She believed in it. She submitted it, and basically we just worked it along the way. And the hard work is to get people to testify on behalf of the legislation. So at the last minute, we were told about the hearing, and I want to give a huge shout out to those who supported me, who were actually in the room, who gave testimony that day, and all those who had written testimonies. And that's really the formula. But I'm going to be perfectly honest with you. If we didn't have the team of knowledgeable brothers that we have on United Sons and Daughters, I don't think it would have went through. And so the first process of submitting the proposal was to get it to the state rep. Because most people aren't familiar with the American Freedmen verbiage, it went through House Counsel, which means that anything that doesn't kind of like make sense, they want to make sure and they scrub it, and it goes through legal formats to make sure that the verbiage is correct. And guess what? It went through. And there's not really that, I think there may be like one sentence in the proposal that's been changed. So what we submitted, what you see today, and what was approved is what we all sat down and we wrote. And the brothers, I can take my hats off for them for their legal expertise and the historical knowledge that they have to make this happen. So really, it was just basically putting the heads together, writing exactly what we want. And we're really proud of the fact that we got exactly what we wanted. There was no changes, no arguments. And so the state administration and regulatory committee voted unanimously for this. And we're really proud of it. And it's on its way to the House Ways and Means for a budget. And so we'll get more update information next week when we talk to the state rep. So brothers, do you want to talk about the verbiage, how complicated it was to do the verbiage? It was easy for them, but they can talk more about how they wrote it.
Well, one thing I want to say really quick before Naheem chimes in, I think what's important for people to take away from this, notice what Antonia said. They had a representative that believed in it.
He did.
And I think that is really important. And this is why, like, you really do have to know who your state representatives are. You need to know who the representatives are in the state house. I think a lot of people know who's in Congress, but you need to know who's in the state house. I'll pass it to you, Naheem.
Definitely. The bill is based on our needs, right? Reparations, when we think about reparations, we sort of think about it in one way. But if you look at affirmative action, that was a reparation. If you look at the old Freedmen's Bureau, that was a reparation, right? Reparations is plural. That's when you have this package deal. And one of the things that we were cognizant of while we were writing the bill was the ways in which we would help the American freedmen in the state of Massachusetts this proposal actually got submitted to some state reps in South Carolina, Republicans that actually agreed with it as well, right? So it shows that there is, some bipartisan support for what we are presenting for our people. And, just to be brief, some of the things that is in the bill deals with workforce development, um, you know, focusing on the poor and downtrodden in the state. So if you are behind on your bills, we want to ensure that we can keep you up on your bills and things like that. Some of the things that nonprofits are set to do, but we see that those resources are going to other communities and not to the American freedmen. Most of the time, we don't even know about any of these programs to help our people. And just, to wrap it up, because there's a bunch of different things that I could speak about the bill. This bill is designed to bring some form of relief to our citizenry in the state of Massachusetts, and we're hoping to replicate this across the nation, and with the ultimate goal being a federal office of Freedmen Affairs.
Yeah, I'll pass it next to you, Ali. Again, I never like. This is why I tell people, like, I think you're going to see most of these wins on the local level. I really do. I think that somehow we just kind of skipped over the state or the city, and people are like, let's just go to contact Congress, or let's try to get in touch with the president, when you have local representatives right there in your state, right there in front of you. Ali, I wanted to pass it to you.
Yeah, absolutely. So these particular initiatives, state level, local initiatives, are great. We were just having conversations about this, particularly being that San Francisco just did an ordinance, a reparations ordinance. We have our particular opinions about it, but one of the good things about what the state of California has done with San Francisco, Evanston, New York, Massachusetts, etc. I think Philly has something going on. I believe Atlanta has something going on. What we are doing, even at the local or state level, is we're getting these political subdivisions to admit to culpability, right? Not only culpability, but responsibility for some type of remedial action. And so ultimately, we do want to go to the federal level, but by getting the subdivisions to admit culpability, now you have portions of the United States admitting that, yes, something happened and we are willing to take responsibility for it and try to remedy the problem. So if you can get the divisions of the United States to admit that, you should be able to then get the United States to admit the same at some point in time. Hopefully, that's the goal. That's the goal.
Yeah, I mean, I just, again, I love this. 1 second. Had to clear my throat. I absolutely love this. If you're just joining again, this is a big win here in Massachusetts, an act establishing a Massachusetts Agency of Freedmen Affairs. So the bill has made it out of committee, which is a really good positive sign, because if a bill basically doesn't make it out of committee, that means that obviously the representatives are not interested in pushing it forward and having a vote on it. But I think this is a big deal. And for those who are not aware, Antonia was in my documentary, Remove Black Erasure in Boston. And so we have worked together quite a bit for the past couple of months. And I just have to tell, like to all of you, I mean, those of you guys grew up here, but I moved here, obviously, in 2011, and I've learned so much from all of you. And I think that the fact of something like this starting in Massachusetts, I think it's a really big deal, and it should be no problem for like South Carolina, North Carolina, Georgia. People should be advocating there to do the same thing. But knowing what I know through the research and everything that we talked about in the documentary, the fact that this is moving forward in Massachusetts, I think is a really big deal.
And I'd
Yeah.
like to just say that, I'm sorry, can I just say that the reason why Massachusetts was so compelling for me is I grew up here and understood the racial tension in Massachusetts, because we are named the #1 racist state and city of Boston across the nation. The Boston Globe did an article on it. But the bigger piece is that Massachusetts sanctioned slavery in 1641, the first colony to do so, and the first colony to activate Jim Crow laws. So Massachusetts has a lot of history complicit in enslavement and the disadvantages um, and to our people with the badges and incidents that have occurred and continue to do so today. And that was one of the reasons why I really pay homage to you to doing the documentary Removed. It just shows that the residuals of slavery still exist, and the people that have been faced the most diver, just say disparities are Black Americans who are American freedmen. And a lot of people don't give us that recognition, that respect. A lot of people think that, oh, I'm treated horribly in Massachusetts or Boston, whatever, because I'm Black, but not necessarily knowing our history. So I thank you for that. And I just want to also give a huge shout out to Antonio Cabral and his team at the the state administration and regulatory committee, who really came back and said, we want deep found testimonies. And when we testified that day, he really respected and was overwhelmed by our testimonies because they were impactful, they were real, they were true. They were really stories of how our families migrated to Boston and Massachusetts in the late, 20s, 30s, and 40s and faced racial discrimination after escaping it from the South. And he really needed to hear that. And so his team was really compelled by our testimonies and the information and the testimonies and the presentation from the brothers. So that's what really got us where we are today. The fact that they respected and listened to us, and it wasn't like, oh, get over it. Slavery happened so long ago. He was really interested in hearing what we had to say.
Yeah. So does everybody see what you can do on the local level? Some of these things that you can get accomplished locally? Like this is what I was talking about. I think a lot of times people think the fight has always got to be in DC, and that's not necessarily the case. And if you look at, some of these, like some of the things that people fight for and push for on the federal level have already passed in the states. And that didn't just come out of nowhere. Like people put in the work. Curious, Naheem, when you guys got together to write the language for this, because some people may need to know about that, how did you decide what was the correct language to use for this bill?
Well, it's all predicated upon looking at the needs of our people. What are the areas of harm and how can we address those? And we looked at the state of Massachusetts and we tried to identify specific areas of harm. And that is what went into drafting the legislation and making sure that it was centered in a way that it would survive any legal challenge by people like Ed Bloom and other type organizations. So that was it. Just looking at what our people need and crafting legislation in a way that we can get resources to them without anybody stopping us from doing that. And that was it.
This is awesome, you guys. What's the next step from here, Antonia?
Well, the next step is we'll be meeting with State Rep Fluker Reed on the 13th. We'll be getting an update as to what to expect from the House Ways and Means Committee. That's where the bill is going to. We've been asked to come up with a reasonable budget to present, and from there it goes to the governor. That's from what I understand, and we'll have more information on the 13th next week when we meet with her. And so, from like Naheem said, it's an emergency preamble. Our expectation is once the bill goes through House Ways and Means with a budget and the governor signs it, it's activated immediately. And I just want to say one thing. We're really looking for people to mirror this across the nation. This is really important that our heritage and our lineage, I know these are words that are very, transformable, is recognized. And this is basically foolproof. We're asking for nothing. It's something no different than anybody else. When we looked at the history of Massachusetts, they have a commission on Asian, a commission on Latinos. They have a commission on LGBT. They have a commission on Haitian. There's nothing for us. There's nothing specifically for American freemen or the descendants of enslaved. And so this was something that to me has to be done. We can't talk about reparations. We can't talk about repairing the harms unless we have this put in place. So to be perfectly honest, we're looking for people to team up with us, join membership, so that we can give them the blueprint so they can start to activate this in their own cities and states. And I think it's really necessary across the nation.
All right. Okay. Thank you to all of you again, guys.
You're
This is
welcome.
something that you can try to do things locally. This is what I was talking about. So I consider this to be a win. And please, like all of you, well, Anthony, I talked to you. Keep me updated and let me know how
Yes,
it goes.
girl. Yes, we will. And so again, you can contact us at usadof.org. That's the website. And please just connect with us so we can get some workshops going so we can train people how to get this stuff done across the nation. And I want to thank you again for allowing us to share this news with you. It was really important that we didn't forget those who started off with us in the beginning, and we wanted to make sure you're the first person that we shared this with. So thank you again. And happy
And if I
2020.
could,
Go on,
if I
Naheem.
can add real quick, our email address is friedman@usadof.org. Again, that's friedman@usadof.org. If you're interested in working with us and replicating this in your locale, send us an email.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you guys so much.
All right, Sabby.
Bye-bye now.
Bye.
Have a wonderful evening. Bye-bye.
All righty. Okay. All right. Our next guest is already here. Let's keep it moving, guys, because I'm about to bring Garland Nixon in as well. If you haven't had a chance to do so, go ahead and smash the like button. Thank you. And let's go ahead and keep it moving, ladies and gents. So, okay. We're going to get into this story coming out of Minneapolis. Many of you probably heard about it already now. I am bringing in Garland Nixon. Most of you are familiar with Garland Nixon. Garland Nixon is the host of the Garland Nixon Show on YouTube. He also has a radio show. But Garland Nixon also at one point was a law enforcement officer. And so I thought it would be good to bring on someone who may also have that perspective when we're discussing this particular story. Now, I have my opinion about this. I have not talked to Garland about this. I don't know how he feels about this or what he's going to say before he comes on. I just asked him if he would come on and give that perspective. So let's go ahead and bring him in. Welcome back, Garland Nixon. What's going on?
Oh my gosh, things are just wonderful. You know what? This is a time when you don't say, "Boy, what else could happen?" Nobody say that, please. You know.
I know. Okay,
But also you have to add. Yes, I was a law enforcement, but I also worked with the ACLU. I worked for the ACLU specifically on the issue of police accountability, and I was recognized nationally for my work on police accountability. And then I was on the National Board of Directors. So I worked on this issue after I left law enforcement for many years.
Okay. All right. So let's go ahead and dive into this. So I'm going to show a couple of things and then I'm going to go back to you, Garland, to get your take on this. For those who are not aware, the other day in Minneapolis, there was a woman. She was in her car. Her name is Renee, I believe. She was in her car and there were ICE agents. So for those who are not aware, there's ICE agents all over like Minneapolis right now. And the video has gone viral. There have been multiple videos showing different angles, etc. Long story short, she backs up her car. I'm going to show you in just a second. And then from what I saw, it looked as though looking at her wheels that she was trying to turn and drive away. And unfortunately, what ended up happening was that one of the ICE agents shot her and killed her, shot her in the face and shot 3 times. And so let me go through a couple of this first, and I'm going to bring in Garland's perspective here. Donald Trump gave this statement. I have just viewed the clip of the event which took place in Minneapolis, Minnesota. It is a horrible thing to watch. The woman screaming was obviously a professional agitator, and the woman driving the car was very disorderly, obstructing and resisting, who then violently, willfully, and viciously ran over the ICE officer, who seems to have shot her in self-defense. Based on the attached clip, it is hard to believe he is alive, but is now recovering in the hospital. So this was false. We'll show you guys in just a second. This situation is being studied in its entirety, but the reason these incidents are happening is because the radical left is threatening, assaulting, and targeting our law enforcement officers and ICE agents on a daily basis. So that was the statement that Donald Trump gave very quickly. And Ryan Grimm shared a slow-mo video of what happened. We will have to pause in between there because I can't show someone being shot on YouTube. But you guys will get the gist of it. Ryan Grimm said, if you watch the beginning of this carefully, You can see the shooter appears to have his phone on his left hand, in his left hand. Good chance he is filming. All right, so we're going to start this slow-mo, and then, like I said, I have to stop because I can't show them actually shooting her. But this is what it looks like in slow motion. So you can see it says here, agent goes to pull the gun. She tries to turn. And we have to pause it here and we have to bring it out. I'm sorry, guys, but that's just how YouTube is. And then we'll bring it back in here. He moves to the side of the car. He leans over. So there are two people here. This is what people have to understand. There's an agent right here that's right beside the car. And then there's an agent towards the front of the car. What Ryan Grimm is pointing out here is that if you look at the bottom and you look at his legs, you can see at this point he had moved to the side of the car. She tries to turn. So let me bring this back out. And then I'll bring it in here. Here we go. Okay. So they're identifying first shot here. So that was when the first shot happened. As you can see, there's 2 feet here and there's 2 feet here. But it didn't end with the first shot. That's the other thing. So let me bring this back out. And then another thing they pointed here, they said the feet on the side of the car. So at this point, and I think some people may argue the first shot, but even at this point, both of them are on the side of the car. And then there is a second shot right here. And this is the one that I think is the most damning from my opinion, from what I saw, just from the angle. There's another shot here. As you can see, again, the car is going this way. And Ryan Grimm is pointing out he's completely on the side at this point, but it didn't end there. And then there was a third shot right here. And at this point, the vehicle is, obviously not near the officer at all. So this is, a lot of people have questions, Garland. And I'll tell you my opinion based on what I saw. But I want to get your take first. And let me just show this here. This is another thing that people were pointing out was the phone. So apparently there's a close up here. This is the guy who people are saying was hit by the car. And this agent, at this point, he had his cell phone. So maybe he was filming, maybe he was taking a picture. I don't know. But the point that people are making is that if he felt his life was in so much danger, why was he standing there with a cell phone? So before I go further, because there's other things I do want to show, Garland, again, you were law enforcement. Who is in the right and who is in the wrong here based on the law?
Well, the law basically that would address this particular issue is Tennessee versus Garner. It's 1985. And basically that was derived from an instance where a 10-year-old boy had like a purse with $10 in it running, and a police officer shot him. And they basically argued they had the authority to shoot him. Well, the case ended up in jail for like 11 years. And the final finding was basically that when a police officer shoots someone, it's considered a seizure. They're seizing the person's body, which means you have Fourth Amendment protections. And when they determine that a person had Fourth Amendment protections, that changes everything for this reason. Because the question becomes, initially the question was, doesn't a police officer have the authority to use deadly force, right? But since now we talk about Fourth Amendment protections, which is a protection from unreasonable search, and in this case, seizure, seizing your person, stopping your ability to move around. Now the question is not does the officer have the authority to shoot it? It's does the officer have the justification to do it? So rather than authority, it's justification, and that also can apply to any use of force. Not do they have the authority, do they have the justification to use of force? Now there's two parts of it. Number one, and there is the reality of what happened on the ground. Like so many other instances, you can easily look at that and see they had no reason to shoot her. That the idea that those officers couldn't step aside, that they couldn't get in the way, that she was trying to run him over, that she was about to run him over is patently absurd. It is clear looking at that they were standing beside the car. And in fact, they backed up a couple steps and they could have always backed up. Why were they standing so close to the car, dangling in the car, what have you? And here's the other thing, that as she drove away, which clearly by the time they were starting shooting, she was almost away. So the question would then be, are you going to argue that once she got away, that she presented a threat to the community? Because now in a use of force instance, for instance, if an officer sees somebody running away and they've got a gun and they're shooting, or they're a serial killer, whatever the case may be, if an officer can say this person was trying to escape and this person would present a threat to the community, they can use force then, right? It's a fleeing felon rule. But at any rate, clearly, she was not presenting any threat to their lives or anyone else. She was trying to get away. She was unarmed. Now, the issue is going to be, well, but she was in a car. A car is dangerous. You're standing beside the car. You're not in front of the car. The wheel was turned away from you. The wheel didn't turn towards them so she could go into it. The wheel turned away, which means they were pulling away. And so the officer made the decision. So here's the point. Clearly, these officers were wrong, and they did not have justification to use deadly force. However, sadly, in the United States, in the same way that you looked at Donald Trump's statement, that was not a statement of fact. That was a political position. The political position is anytime a police officer shoots, I'm going to back it as being right. Right? That's what you get. Anytime a cop shoots somebody, I'm going to support the cop that it was right, no matter whether it was right or wrong. That's a political position. And that's what Donald Trump was. He just wrote things. Look, his position was the cop was right and I'm supporting the cop. So he just wrote something that wasn't necessarily true, but it needed to be true in order to support his political position. It was a political position, not. And sadly, in the United States, and I've seen this. I mean, I know of one instance where a young kid, black kid, he had an issue with in Maryland, Lower Eastern Shore, down near Ocean City. He had an issue. Now listen to this. Tell me he was a danger to the cop. He had an issue with a ticket. He had gotten a ticket for like having his light broke or something not working. You know what I mean? One of these safety inspection tickets, like a light out or something. And he got it fixed. And you know how in some places you get like a safety inspection ticket, you got to go to the local police barracks, show them, you know, that you got it fixed, and then turn the light on that it works, and then they can sign off of it and off you're going. It was one of those instances. So he goes there. There's some police officer at getting gas or something. The officer claims the guy tried to run him over and shot him. He was like a 20-year-old kid. There was why? You know what I mean? He stopped by we're supposed to believe that he stopped by the police department to take care of a safety ticket. And then he just decided to run over one of the cops, and it was absurd. It made no sense. But of course, guess what happens in court every single time? So what we have two things. We have legal standards that say that the police officer has to have justification. And we've got Tennessee versus Garner, and we got all of that. Sure, that's all there. But politically speaking, they back the cops, and the cops shoot somebody, and you'll see what you saw with Donald Trump. Doesn't matter what happened. And when he writes it up, that poor officer, he was run over. He was flown out to shock trauma. He barely escaped with his life. I didn't see that. I saw a guy shoot somebody and step back a couple steps. I mean, maybe he twisted his ankle or something, jumping out of the, jumping back or something. But if you'd have read Donald Trump, you'd have think the man was half dead. They backed over him 3 or 4 times. It was a political statement nothing more. And unfortunately, that's what you run into in America. The cops, the ICE, whoever, can shoot civilians all they want. They can beat them. They can do whatever they want to. And when they get to court, politically speaking, they always let them get away with it, with very few examples otherwise.
Well, here's another thing here that I do want to show people because, like I said, there's so many different videos that are posted about this. But one of the things I didn't notice before is that she was telling them, let me go ahead and put this up here. Hold on. Listen to what said here. She was waving you see the hand, how she was waving them through. That's another thing that people were saying, that she was telling them to go ahead and go. Right?
Why did they walk? Why? I don't even know why they came over to her truck. What was going on?
Well, she was saying when the agents get, this is what David said here. When the agents get out, you can hear her say, "I'm pulling out." I don't know why we can't hear it on here. I don't know what happened with, could just be that video.
Yeah.
But
I mean, the idea that she decided, I mean, just even like I said, it's like the kid at the police station with the safety ticket. The idea that you drive down there, he like told his dad, "Hey dad, I gotta run over to the station and do this. And then when I come back, I'm gonna go to the basketball court." And he goes over there. Next thing they find out he's shot. And the cop's like, "You tried to run me over." Makes no sense. And the idea that this woman, a mother of, the 30-some-year-old mother, just out of the blue decided to run over a couple of cops is absurd. And then, she's a whatever, she's some kind of an agitator, or she's some kind of a terrorist or something. The whole thing is absurd. But that's America. The cops can do whatever they want to you, and 99.999% of the time, they're going to walk.
So I'm going to show you what the eyewitness said really quick, because it seemed like there was some confusion here, as well as the direction that was given from the agents.
And I was screaming at her to move, move, move. And then they got really aggressive and went over to her driver's side door and tried to open her door. And then she obviously got spooked and started to reverse. And then an officer approached her and leaned across, got in front of her vehicle, and then leaned across the hood of her car.
The hood of her car. And again, I can't show the shot here. So this is where we're getting conflicting information, but this is one of the eyewitnesses. So she is saying that I guess they were telling her to move. They were telling her to go. At least one of them were telling her to go. And then the other one was coming up to the car saying, get out of the car. So you got two different things being said to you. And then here's another question that I have, Garland. When he shot her, considering the fact that she was in a vehicle which was turned on, there's a possibility that she could have actually hit a person, because when they shot her 3 times, for those who are not aware, her foot basically, once her head went down, her foot basically went down on the gas pedal, and the car accelerated and it crashed into another car. But he wasn't thinking about the welfare of the other ICE agents either. That car could have hit a person or anything other than just another car. So that's the other thing I wonder about as well, like not thinking that you're shooting this person in the face and the car has no one controlling the wheel. So you put other people in danger. I'm curious about your perspective about that.
Only from a legal perspective. I mean, the whole thing is farcical. The whole discussion of whether this guy was in danger and whether he was justified shooting her is just absurd, and it's a farce. But from the legal perspective, it would be, did he feel his life was in danger at the time and he had to shoot her to protect himself, right? Now, the sad thing is the court, more often than not, here's what the court will say, right? The court generally finds this: well, we have to lean towards the officer because the officer is in a stressful situation and they only have a couple of seconds to make a decision. So the court's going to lean towards them because they've got seconds, fractions of a second to make a decision. And so the bottom line is this: what it means is the cops can always get away with shooting you. And now somebody in there mentioned, well, when it came to the George Floyd, the guy was convicted. I mean, literally, George Floyd said, "You're killing me." He literally said, "You're killing me," and the guy killed him. I mean, to me, I'm just saying that ain't nothing to brag about. You know, that's just so over the top that, well, yeah, I don't see how they could have not convicted him, although it was still in question in America. People got to understand that. I mean, the courts rule in favor over and over, always.
I just wanted to add, J.D. Vance said today during the press conference that ICE agents have immunity.
Well, okay, the issue of qualified immunity, where qualified immunity comes in is in a civil case. For instance, when a police officer shoots someone, right? Okay, so you've got the criminal and the civil perspective. The criminal perspective is the courts look at it and they decide, you know, whether or not to charge the person. The person may even be charged, but when it comes to a finding of guilt, it has to be, you know, beyond a reasonable doubt. And some argue beyond a reasonable doubt to a moral certainty, right? We are certain, there's no doubt, reasonable doubt that that person did it. That's a finding in a criminal case. Now, let's say the officer's charged or not charged. The family can still come back and sue in a civil case. A civil case is a preponderance of the evidence for a finding on behalf of the plaintiff. A preponderance of the evidence simply means 51-49, 51% chance that it did versus 49 that it didn't. It's just a preponderance. It's more likely that it did than it didn't. So the family can come back and sue. However, the issue of qualified immunity comes in wherein a government official acting in the scope of their duties is generally immune from these types of lawsuits, basically. In fact, I got it in here somewhere. I can find it. But yes, that's qualified immunity, where oftentimes, more often, there we go, a legal doctrine that shields government officials from being sued for discretionary actions performed within their official capacity, unless their conduct violates clearly established statutory or constitutional rights. So basically, oftentimes, in order to sue the officer has to be charged and found guilty. If they're charged and found guilty, then you got a chance. But if they're not charged or found guilty, then usually qualified immunity is going to block them. Now, at times, you do have times where the local authorities or whoever won't fight it and they'll just settle the lawsuit. But so that's what you're dealing with. So in this instance, it's clear and obvious that they're wrong. It's clear and obvious that the officer's life was not threatened.
But Garland, it's not to everybody. That's what I'm saying. Like, to everybody is not saying that they were in the wrong, because there's different angles of the video, and there's one part of the video where it shows the front and people are saying that, see, she hit him with the car. And then there's other angles that are like, no, she didn't hit him with. No, everybody is not saying that. Everyone's not saying that they were in the wrong. Like, there are many people I saw online are saying that they were in the right because she was going to run him over, or that he didn't know if she was going to run him over. And in fact, let me play this real quick and I'll come back to you. This is what Kristi Noem said after this happened.
Minnesota, it was an act of domestic terrorism. What happened was our ICE officers were out in an enforcement action. They got stuck in the snow because of the adverse weather that is in Minneapolis. They were attempting to push out their vehicle, and a woman attacked them and those surrounding them and attempted to run them over and ram them with her vehicle. An officer of ours acted quickly and defensively shot to protect himself and the people around him. And my understanding is that she was hit and is deceased. We're continuing.
So see, Kristi Noem put that message out very quickly, that she tried to run him over. And that was also the same thing that Donald Trump said. So you know how it is, like, whoever gets the narrative out first, that's usually the one people are more likely to believe. But even after looking at the videos, people were still saying, well, she blocked the road. And there's some discrepancy over that. Her ex-husband contacted media earlier and said that she was not one of the protesters. Now, that's different from what I heard the other day. The other day, people were saying that she was one of the protesters, or she was an observer, but her ex said that she had just dropped her kids off from school, and that's why she was in that area, but that she wasn't one of the protesters. So that's another question I have. If they're blocking the road, does that give law enforcement the right to shoot to kill?
So all of those things are irrelevant. The only thing that matters in this, and this is which was a lethal force case, is at the time that the officer did the officer could he have a justifiable reason to fear for his life of significant harm or death or that of others. So all the other things, what was going on at the time, who she was. So that's why I would say this: those who are saying she's a domestic terrorist, she's this, she's that, they're building a political case. They're not talking about the case, because the case is irrelevant. And I mean, all those things, whether she was protesting or not, is irrelevant. At the time that he pulled that trigger, did he have the justification? Did he have a reason to believe that his life was in danger? Looking at that, I don't see how he could have, because she was behind her car. Her wheels were turned the other way and she was pulling away from him. And to me, it should be a high standard. It shouldn't be the minimum standard. It couldn't be that because it doesn't even sound like it's justifying. If I can find any reason to say that my life was in danger, well, it was an icy day and I could have slipped and slid under the car. Anything I can make up to say I felt my life was in danger, as opposed to true justification where you can look at it and any reasonable and prudent person can say, yep, that officer's life was in danger. I was a police officer for 27 years. His life was not in danger. Clearly.
This is why I wanted you guys to hear from
someone with that kind of stuff. I dealt with that kind of stuff before. I've seen these kinds of things happen on many occasions. And you don't have to pull a gun out and fire in that instance. And you know what I would have done if I him? I'd have just kept backing up.
Well, let me show you.
Took a couple more steps. He was, first of all, he did he get killed? By the time she was shooting at her and she was still driving away. He was like behind the window. She was a few feet from him, still driving away. He's still firing. Why? She's driving away. He still feels threatened. It was absurd to me. But the fact of the matter is, in America, from a political perspective, the cops can do whatever they want to. I mean, you will see the most egregious instances of cops using lethal force and that they just walk. I know of an instance, and I had officers on the force tell me, then they felt bad. Said, yeah, everybody, these words, and everybody knows that was a bad shoot. Everybody knows it was a bad shoot. So what these officers were saying, everybody on their agency knows. They felt bad. They're telling me like, oh man, everybody knows. But everybody also knew that the guy was going to walk.
And then, well, the other thing too, I want to show people is what it actually says for DHS, like what the memo actually says. So moving vehicles, people need to see this. Moving vehicles, vessels, aircrafts, and conveyances. DHS LEOs are prohibited from discharging firearms at the operator of a moving vehicle, vessel, aircraft, or other conveyance unless the use of deadly force against the operator is justified, understood, articulated elsewhere in this policy. Before using deadly force under these circumstances, the LEO must take into consideration the hazards that may be posed to law enforcement and innocent bystanders by an out-of-control conveyance. And this is what I was saying, Garland, when he shot at her, he didn't think about the fact of that vehicle could have hit anyone. It could have hit the other ICE agents. It could have hit a kid. It could have hit anyone else. And that just wasn't even thought of. And you know what's happening now? They just announced the FBI is taking over this case.
Look, I remember the infamous Freddie Gray case, right? And I was working for the ACLU when that happened. And you may remember, the woman's name was Marilyn Mosby. She was the state's attorney for Baltimore, and she went after the officers and tried to charge them. And she stated, because so the FBI is going to take over, but it doesn't matter. But look, the federal government's going to the federal government police officer are going to investigate another federal government police officer. Marilyn Mosby said that the Baltimore City internal investigations, was acting as part of the defense team. She complained about that, right? In other words, internal investigations was creating an internal investigation designed to get these officers off. So she had no chance. And she tried to charge them. But what happened to Marilyn Mosby? You know what happened to Marilyn Mosby? About 2 years later, she got charged by the FBI. They charged her. Now, she had bought a property down in Florida, and they, think about this, they went over the documents that she wrote and found, they said, like, well, she said she was going to use it for, not for personal use, and she rented it out or something. In other words, the FBI had to go pull her real estate documents and go over line by line to find something. And then they charged her. So she went after the cops legitimately. She complained because, hey, look, I'm trying to prosecute this guy, and the Baltimore City Police is supposed to be doing an independent investigation, and the internal affairs are working with the defense team, right? FBI charged her 2 years later and came after her, the city state's attorney, and her husband, which was, think about that. So the bottom line was, it was clear that not only was law enforcement working to cover up law enforcement, the FBI came in later and went after her because she had the unmitigated gall to try to charge the officers in the Freddie Gray case who were obviously wrong.
Yeah, I remember that. So you got to deal with that as well, right? When you try to go after the officers. And there's another connection too that I want people to see. I don't know if everybody's aware of this, but people are calling out the connection between ICE and the IDF in Israel. You guys have got to see this. I thought this was pretty important.
And we just found out that a lot of ICE agents are actually IDF soldiers.
This is crazy as fuck. I need everybody to save this video just in case it gets taken down again. I just did a video about 30 minutes ago. I've been trying to get it appealed. The appeal did not get approved. Anyways, I presented some identities, okay, of certain ICE agents located specifically in Chicago. A group that I associate myself with went through some public records and found over 2,000 ICE agents, right? Well, throughout those 2,000 ICE agents, specifically 121 of them, right, had experience as an ex-IDF soldier. If you went up and down this entire list of individuals, you'd notice that their last names in particular, right, all lead back to one specific location with no other job experience. And maybe it won't let me post it because it's personal information. I have no idea. But there's literally a whole motherfucking list of these people, and they all look the same. Which tells me exactly why they're choosing to hide their faces, because just imagine, right, if some information like that were to get out, which is why I'm making this video once again. I'm just saying, if you look into the background of these specific individuals, you might notice that they're not exactly a U.S. citizen.
So this is another thing I wanted to talk about, was the connection between ICE and the IDF. Now, we talked before about the NYPD's connection to the IDF, but now we're hearing more about ICE, and he's saying that he had a list of names of ICE agents that were actually former IDF soldiers.
Well, the Israelis are all over law enforcement in the United States, in training particularly. They're training all over the place. Remember that Cop City thing? And the Israelis were involved in that. So they are involved in the Praetorian Guard. They are involved in the basically those who are in the same way that they're over there marching around at checkpoints, brutally keeping the Palestinians in line. Well, they're marching around, keeping us in line. They're training the police officers. They're training people to write policies. They're all over, all over the law enforcement, all over those who, whose job it is to keep us in our place and to keep us all in line. People need to wake up and understand that. Not just ICE, all over law enforcement, not just here. Anywhere you find the United States government, in Colombia, wherever, the DEA, anywhere you find the U.S. Law enforcement and the U.S. training people, there's going to be Israelis all over, crawling all over it.
Okay, Garland, do you have a couple more minutes?
Sure.
Okay, I know you got something else. There's something else I wanted to show you because people brought this up as well. I do think this is important. This is why we were screaming about this a couple of years ago. Do you remember this chart, Garland, about the ICE funding?
No.
Boosting ICE funding is bipartisan. So I believe this was, we talked about this. I think I talked about it last year. But what it shows you is that the Republicans and the Democrats have continued to increase funding to ICE over the years. It's just continued to go up and up and up and up. And so I'm saying this Because I've seen some of the Democrats like online say, well, see, this wouldn't, but the thing is, as soon as you ask them, like Chuck Schumer, should we abolish ICE? They don't want to answer the question. Here's Chuck Schumer right here.
Should ICE be abolished, Senator? Will you use?
I have lots of problems with ICE.
Should it be abolished?
Thank you.
Will you guys use? Will you guys use the appropriate? Will this be a red line in this upcoming funding fight? A lot of people want to know how you guys plan to do this, and will it lead to a shutdown? Will it be a red line, ICE restricting ICE funding in the funding fight? Can you explain?
Tim Walz stepped down as governor. How can he be trusted?
So my thing is, Garland, people are getting killed. It's not just this woman, Renee, that was just killed. There was another American they said was killed like 2 weeks ago or a week or so ago. So that's 2 within 2 weeks. And given what JD Vance said, that ICE soldiers, agents have immunity, that
which, like all law enforcement, qualified immunity, that is an issue.
But what that tells people is that the ICE agents can kill anybody. It doesn't matter if you were someone that they believe is illegal, that they were looking to arrest. They can kill any one of us.
Well, I think what you have to do, and I always do this, foreign policy and domestic policy are inextricably linked. You're looking at people that committed genocide. You think they really care about human life? They don't care any more about the people here. If we get in their way, if we're an aggravation, if we push back against them, they just as soon rub us out, kill us up, wipe us out as they would the Palestinians. That's the reality. And basically, in the same way that they train, brutal, vicious imperial thugs to go around the world kidnapping, marauding, and murdering, right? As the system falls apart, as it gets too expensive for people to live, as people don't have can't afford health care, as people's lives go straight to hell, they're like, yeah, people are going to become unhappy and they're going to get mad at us because we ain't going to do anything for them. We better be able to put them down. We better be able to have some people to beat them down, shoot them, do whatever we need to do. We have to keep them in line. So what do? I mean, remember the Capitol Police? They added $2 billion. I mean, they had like $100 million budget and they boosted it up to $2.5 billion. They always have more money to go to. The Pentagon budget is always going to go way up, and law enforcement budget, because one of them is to keep the people overseas in line and the other one is to keep us in line. And as they do nothing for us and screw us over, and they know we're going to get madder and angrier and angrier, they're going to make sure that they got somebody to keep us in line, because they know it's just a matter of time before people can't take it anymore and they start to rise up out of desperation and revolution, and they got to be ready to stop that revolution. And Chuck Schumer, that's the machine. He answered the question, actually. Will you abolish ICE? Well, he answered it. No, hell no. Don't even ask me. You don't even deserve an answer to that. What he should have said is, if you're stupid enough that you don't know the answer to that, well, then I don't have to answer you. That's what he should have said. I know the answer. I wouldn't even have to ask him.
Yeah. Well, one thing I will say is I think the reason why Trump might be freaking out a little bit, because he's starting to walk back what he said as well, is because some of the conservatives are calling this out as well. And I was very shocked to see even the Hodge twins, of all people, Trump telling everybody this dude is recovering in the hospital is crazy as hell. That's the guy. And he was not recovering in that guy was totally fine. He walked down the street, was totally fine.
He said she ran over him. And he was recovering in the hospital.
That's what I'm saying. People said he was run over. He was walking down the street totally fine afterwards. And then another one was Geraldo Rivera, who came out and spoke out against what ICE just did.
I have to stress that emotionally, that might have been me, that woman there. That's how moved I am and how angry I am, but by what I'm seeing. I'm seeing what Governor Walz, for all his problems, was absolutely right yesterday when he said bringing the ICE agents into this Minneapolis community was going to cause trouble, was going to cause violence, maybe deadly violence. He said it was predictable and avoidable. And yet it happened anyway. It happened almost as if they were following the script of how to screw things up and make things worse when you're supposed to be, in pursuit of some national goal, the ridding the country of undocumented immigrants.
So that's Geraldo Rivera, who is conservative and supported Donald Trump, also calling this out now. And quick question, Garland, why is it that Tim Walz, yeah, he did give that warning. Many of us have been saying for quite some time, somebody's going to get seriously hurt because of the way that the aggressiveness that the ICE agents were attacking people. And here we go, here we are. Why didn't Tim Walz just tell the Minneapolis PD not to allow ICE to do that? Can't the local police have some type of involvement there or no?
Not really. I mean, what are they going to do? Fight them? They're in a very difficult political position, because the Minneapolis police are, the chief of, they've got a chief of police, they've got the mayor of Minneapolis. So they're, and then oftentimes when the feds come in, they claim jurisdiction. And what are you going to do? When the feds claim jurisdiction, you would have to go to court to fight it. Oftentimes, states and, various municipalities will have what's called an MOU, a memo of understanding with them that kind of articulates who has authority and when. And in more instances, more often than not, if you're a local officer, the feds often have more authority, so you're not in a position. But I mean, it's just, the whole thing is preposterous. And I agree. That's what happens when you start putting federal officers on the street. That's what happens. And Tim Walz was right, and anybody was right. And when you look at it, and they're trained by the IDF, and they're trained as soldiers and military people, we just see this going on. This is the direction that America is going. I see it's just a sad and pathetic situation, but that's where we are. And the bottom line is, because people still think, you got people that think, well, if I vote for the Democrats, they'll get us out of that. You know what I mean? If and then the Republicans, oh, well, if we vote for Trump, he's going to come in. And people haven't figured out yet that, you're a member of a fan club with these two parties, that it's a joke.
I think Nico brought up a really good point, too, about the hypocrisy. Because, again, this year I'm looking to see if people are being consistent. And he brought up the reference here to Ashley Babbitt.
Wrong than they did. And yet here you see two ICE agents cheering for what took place yesterday. So I'm thinking, given the evidence here, there shouldn't be any debate. I'm thinking, given that Renee was killed on January 7th, one day after January 6th, where Ashley Babbitt was killed, and MAGA people never let us forget that she should have never been killed, that we should all be on the same page. Because I actually agree with them. But I underestimated how far some people are willing to go to seek validation from fascists.
And that's the part,
These are political positions. If it's a member of my team, well, then I support them. If it's a member of the other team, then I know everything's wrong with the other team. It's sickening. And that's why I said, this blue team, red team crap, that's what it produces. Because the truth of the matter is, if you're on one of these teams, that's all you get. If you're on a blue team or the red team, all you get is to cheer for your team. It's like watching a football game. The people on the field are getting a check. You ain't getting a check. You're not part of the team. You're cheering for the team. There's nothing really in it for you. So guess what? All they get to do is, they're on the red team. Oh my gosh, a member of my team was injured. You hit my quarterback illegally. You should get a flag. And then when your guy hits the other quarterback and they throw a flag, hey, wait a minute. He didn't touch the quarterback. That's it. This is emotional stuff. This is tribalism. So they know that when Ashley Babbitt was a conservative or whatever, well, then they know she shouldn't have been shot. They don't even need to see the video. And all you got to do is look at Trump's political statement. He just made stuff up. He just made it up. Because if it was true, hey, he'd be right. So who cares? Just say it. And Trump is a caricature of what I'm saying. He's an absurd, preposterous example of it. But on a more muted level, that's what everybody's doing if you're a member of one of these two crazy parties.
I just want to tell everybody, please be careful, like out there, whether you're protesting or not, because I really think they want chaos, Garland. I think the Trump administration wants chaos. I think they want people to respond in such a way to whether it's ICE agents or the National Guard, anyone else, because I feel like they want to use that as an excuse to ramp up Palantir and increase the surveillance state.
They're going to do that anyway. They can't ramp it up any more than they are. You know, they're ramping all that stuff up anyway. Doesn't matter what you do. If you don't do it, if you do it, they're going to do it. But I would say this to people. I used to teach a class called Know Your Rights when I was with the law enforcement. I used to go to colleges and teach it. But one of the things I would say to people is this: in your interactions with law enforcement, keep in mind that even if you're 100% right, they can still shoot you and they may shoot you. And always keep in mind that the best thing to do is we can challenge it later in court. Just, you know, if the officers were there, I would say, turn your car off and put your hands on the steering wheel. Turn your car. Don't do nothing. Turn your car off. We can deal with it later. We can go to court later. We can sue later. Turn your car off, put your hands on the steering wheel. Because, and now she didn't know that. She didn't know her rights. She didn't know her constitution. She didn't know what she was supposed to do. She just panicked, and look what happened. She lost her life. But so my advice to people is, if the cops ever pull up on you or whatever, if you're walking up the street and some cops walk up to you, just say, officer, no matter what they say, officer, am I being detained or am I free to go? Anything they ask you, Mr. Nixon, what are you doing here? Officer, am I being detained or am I free to go? If they say, well, you're being detained, officer, I don't answer any questions without my lawyer present. If they say you're free to go, officer, I will be leaving now. Turn around slowly and walk away. That's the only thing you should do. You can't control anything else, but make sure, because it's a very dangerous situation when you're around law enforcement. And even if they're held accountable, it don't do you no good if they shoot you and then they're held accountable later.
Yeah. That's a good point. Well, Garland Nixon, thank you so much for coming on to give the
bad news, the cynical bad news
okay,
about that.
That's okay. People need to hear it, because I don't want this to happen to anyone else. You know what I mean? Like, people need to know. And I want everybody to be safe. And seeing that yesterday, that really like did something to me. You know what I'm saying? Like, I was like, you know, like that could be anybody. I think about all the protests that we've all participated in. You see what I'm saying?
Remember these words, people. Officer, am I being detained or am I free to go? Remember these words. Oh, Mr. Nixon, I'd like to look in your trunk. Officer, I do not allow searches without a warrant. Hello? Yes, Officer Smith is here, sir. May I come in? Officer, you cannot enter my house without a warrant. Yeah. I just want to talk to you. We're doing a survey. Officer, I cannot allow you in my house without a warrant. Click. Doors closed. I cannot allow no searches ever. Well, you don't mind if I look in your trunk, do you? Officer, I do not allow searches without a warrant. Am I being detained or am I free to go? Officer, I do not answer questions without my lawyer present.
Yeah. That's a big one. Garland Nixon, thank you so much for your time.
Oh, thank you very much. I'm glad I could come in here in a way I am, but it made me feel even worse. Thanks a lot, Sabrina. I'll talk to you soon.
Bye.
Bye.
All right, guys, those are really important things to remember what Garland Nixon was saying there, because, you know, the older I get, I start to realize not everybody knows their rights. Not everybody knows that they don't have to say anything if they're like being interrogated, if they don't have a lawyer present. Everyone doesn't know that. And so keep that in mind. But I do just want to tell everybody again, please be careful out there, guys. Like, I'm telling you, I really believe they want chaos. They want people to start fighting each other back and all this types of stuff. And I don't want anybody else to lose their life. And another thing I want to say here too, I noticed a number of people online, they were surprised. They said, I can't believe he shot this woman who's an American citizen. And, you know, yesterday I saw a couple of white liberals really melt down, like on social media. And I have to say this, guys, we have been telling you this for years, that the same way they gun down unarmed black men in the street, the same way they will eventually come for you. And that's what we've been trying to warn people for the longest time. By we, I mean black people. We've been trying to warn people, they'll come for you too. So it's just crazy, you guys. Again, please be safe. All right, let's go ahead and give a shout out to Sabby patrons, because I did not do that just yet. So let's go ahead and do that. Yeah. Thank you to everyone who is a Sabby patron. Really do appreciate you, fam. If you're interested in being a patron, I have 5 categories. We have the ultimate Sabinators. Don't forget about those Sabsters. Don't forget about the Sabbies. Hey. And of course, we also have a group called members. All of their names are listed here, and you can also see their names scrolling across the bottom of the screen there on the ticker. Thank you guys so much. Do want to give a shout out to new Sabby patrons. We call them newbies. Let's give it up for some guy. I like that. Tammy Rafale and Ikrami. Thank you and welcome. Hey, let's keep it going and going. All right, again, tonight's theme is They Want Chaos. And you know, with everything that happened the other day, I think this story kind of slid under the radar, but we are definitely putting it under a microscope tonight. Because you see, with everything that was happening with the kidnapping of Maduro, with the woman who was killed by the ICE agent, guess what happened in regards to defense? This one kind of snuck by. President Trump is rebuilding our military larger, stronger, and more lethal than ever. 1.5 trillion equals peace through strength. That's coming from Pete Hegseth. Listen to this. After long and difficult negotiations with senators, this is from Donald Trump, congressmen, secretaries, and other political representatives, I have determined that for the good of our country, especially in these very troubled and dangerous times, our military budget for the year 2027 should not be $1 trillion, but rather $1.5 trillion. This will allow us to build the dream military that we have long been entitled to, and more importantly, that will keep us safe and secure, regardless of foe. If it weren't for the tremendous numbers being produced by the tariffs from other countries, many of which in the past have ripped off the US at levels never seen before, I would stay at the $1 trillion number. But because of the tariffs and the tremendous income that they bring, amounts being generated, that would have been unthinkable in the past. Just 1 year ago, during the sleepy Joe Biden administration, the worst president in history of our country, we are able to easily hit the 1.5 trillion mark. So Donald Trump has increased the military budget to 1.5 trillion. Now, I just told you guys a couple of days ago, we have just surpassed 800 billion. Now it's being increased. The budget is being increased to $1.5 trillion. Why would Donald Trump need to increase the budget or feel he needs to increase the military budget to that amount if he's trying to have peace? And let this be an alarm to everyone. I'm calling it now. Israel is going to attack Iran again. The U.S. is probably going to participate as well. They're going to need some oil during that time, which Iran will obviously not give. So that's where Venezuela comes in. So they'll be able to steal that oil from Venezuela, right? So Donald Trump, in my opinion, is trying to escalate us into another world war. Because if the U.S. and Israel attack Iran again, and they've already pretty much seized Venezuela for the most part, we'll get into that as well with this story. Where do you think that leaves Russia and China? This is really serious, and everybody should be talking about this right now. All the signs were kind of there because remember, Donald Trump renamed the Department of Defense to the Department of War and still sat up there and told his supporters that he's the peace president. I mean, this guy just dances in front of people's faces and they still believe that, you know, they have their hopes of what he said he would be. And he's doing it right in front of their face. So that's where we're headed, ladies and gents. And look at this one. This is another warning sign. I have been informed by the Department of War that defense contractor Raytheon has been the least responsive to the needs of the Department of War, the slowest in increasing their volume, and the most aggressive spending on their shareholders rather than the needs and demands of the U.S. military. Raytheon seems to think this is the Biden administration, and this is business as usual. It's not. Either Raytheon steps up and starts investing in more upfront investment like plants and equipment, or they will no longer be doing business with the Department of War. Also, if Raytheon wants further business with the U.S. government, under no circumstances will they be allowed to do any additional stock buybacks where they have spent tens of billions of dollars until they are able to get their act together. Our country comes first, and they're going to have to learn the hard way. So you know what this means? This means that Donald Trump is basically telling Raytheon that they're not producing weapons fast enough. Again, if you are pursuing peace, why do you need to speed up the rate of weapon production? So they are getting ready for it. They are getting ready to attack Iran, possibly even escalate with Russia, China. We don't know. But we already see what just happened with Venezuela. So we know that they are going all in, folks. 1.5 trillion budget means that we are headed to a possible world war. And I do believe, and I've believed this for a long time, that at some point there will be a World War III. And I'm willing to bet you 9 times out of 10, the aggressor will be the United States and Israel. They want chaos. Tucker Carlson said something about this recently as well. Everybody pay attention. That budget is not a joke.
The president announced that he is hiking the Pentagon budget from 1 trillion to 1.5 trillion. Just announced that. Why? Well, it's hard to know without asking him. He'll explain. But big picture, obviously, that's the kind of budget that a country that anticipates a global or regional war has for its military. There's no other reason to do that. That's not a peacekeeping budget. That's a war budget, a big war budget. So I think it's fair to expect, and all the signs suggest, that we're going to have a big war soon. A big war soon. I think everyone expects that to happen. Hope it doesn't happen, but obviously we're moving in that direction, toward a world war. Sorry. So how do you position yourself for that? Well, you look at a map and you ask the most basic questions. What areas do I want to control? Where are the trade routes? Who's got the resources? The president announced.
So does everybody see where we're headed towards? And this is why pay attention to how they've been cracking down on people who are anti-war. They're cracking down on people who are, and you're trying to crack down on people for being anti-Israel or being pro, Palestine. Like, they are trying to prepare for the next step. And all the pieces are starting to line up in the way that they would want them to. Again, going into Venezuela and getting Maduro so that we're going to take the resources. You'll see that in just a second. J.D. Vance actually admitted that just outright and in the open right here in a recent interview he had with Jesse Waters. They're going to take the resources.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me. Taking out a dictator in Venezuela. How does that help the average American? Well, a few things, Jesse. First of all, what it means is we're going to be able to control the incredible natural resources of Venezuela, which is good for America in a few ways. Number one, it allows us to put leverage on our enemies. Number two, it makes sure that if Americans need high quality, low cost power, we're always going to have access to it.
He said it allows us to put leverage on our enemies. Again, they're putting all the pieces out there. And by the way, if this doesn't happen before the end of Trump's presidency, I can guarantee you it'll happen going into a J.D. Vance presidency into 2028. But I'm willing to predict that something's going to happen before 2028. The warning sign there was the way that he complained that Raytheon isn't producing fast enough. That lets you know they're getting ready for something big, and they're getting ready for something big now. And if you are a parent and you have a child who is 18 or older and they are thinking about joining the military, please tell them do not join the military. If you are in the military and you've been thinking about getting out, Now would be a good time to get out, because here's the thing. You do not want to risk your life for these sickos, because the reality is a world war, another world war. This isn't 1940s. This isn't back during the time of World War II, World War I. This is a very different time. And the reality is, another world war, we could actually get our ass kicked. Things are different now. Even France is starting to look at other options instead of us. China has grown. China is powerful. Russia has grown. They are powerful. Things are different this time around. And these people, J.D. Vance, Donald Trump, all these war-hungry people who said they were bringing about peace because they knew that's what people wanted to hear. All these war-hungry people are leading us closer and closer to a nuclear war. And that's not a game. Let me let him finish here.
And then the third thing is it does demonstrate American military excellence, which makes people afraid to cross us in the future. Some of the best ways that you maintain the peace is to make it clear that you carry a very strong sword if you ever need to use it. So I think it's good for us in a lot of different ways. We also have to remember, Jesse, this is in our neighborhood. This is not Iraq. This is not 7,000 miles away. This is in our neighborhood. If we cannot follow the basic principle, which has been a cornerstone of American foreign policy for 200 years, that we control our neighborhood, a lot of bad people are going to take advantage of it. What the President of the United States said is, in our neighborhood, the United States calls the shots. That's the way it's always been. That's the way it is again under the president's leadership.
But it's not just happening in our own neighborhood. First of all, we don't own the Western Hemisphere. We don't own it. And then two, we have been calling the shots all across the globe, whether it was in North America or South America, whether it was on this side of the globe or that side. We have been doing that. So I'm telling you guys, and I wonder sometimes about JD Vance's wife, because this type of attitude and mentality that he has, I wonder how she feels about that. You know, considering her family is from India, how she feels about this worldwide like dominance that he has and Trump have. Like, they want to be the best and the biggest in the world, and they don't care who gets hurt in the way. I wonder how she feels about that. But ultimately, it leads me down this line of saying that they want chaos. They really do. I really didn't. Listen, I'm gonna be honest with you, okay? Can we be honest? Okay. This presidency of Donald Trump is worse than his first. His first presidency was bad, but this one is insane. This guy is pushing us closer and closer to a nuclear war. And it's not even just a him thing. That's the other thing, is like, they're literally playing in your faces. And I feel like they want to just blow everything up so that whoever is left will just get in line and they'll have order. There is this belief by some that out of chaos will come order. And I feel like Netanyahu and his team, Donald Trump and them, I believe they think that. I believe that people like Miriam Adelson and all of them, they believe that out of chaos, they will get order and everyone will just be obedient and just bend the knee. Because what other choice would you have at that point? If almost everything is destroyed, what other choice would you have? And people wonder about the rich people. The billionaires have bunkers. Bill Gates has a bunker. Mark Zuckerberg has a bunker. These people be fine. If there was a nuclear war, they got a place underground that they can go. They're going to be fine. Not the rest of us. So these are the types of things we got to pay attention to. Now, here is the silver lining. This happened today. The U.S. Senate voted to block Donald Trump from taking further military action against Venezuela without congressional approval.
The yeas are 52. The nays are 47. The motion is agreed to. The joint resolution will be placed on the calendar.
There it is. So the Senate finally did something right. Probably should have been more nays, I would say. It should have been more, but they finally did something right to stop him from taking more measures there in Venezuela. And I gotta say this, and you guys, let me know if you with me on this one. Congress should have been stood up. Like, they don't stand up to Donald Trump. They're just kind of like, I don't agree with this, but what can we do? We got no power. It just is what it is. You know what I mean? It's like they should have come together in a way, in a bipartisan way, to say, look, regardless what party you guys are part of right now, somebody needs to lead, goddammit. Chuck Schumer, you just need to retire. Someone needs to actually lead and say, regardless of what party you're affiliated with, we all got to be real right now. Shit has hit the fan, and we need to band together to get things back on track. Because if you don't try to stop him, it's only going to get crazier. It's not going to get less crazy. It's going to become crazier. That's where we're at right now. The other one here that I thought was interesting, shout out to Jordan for this comment here. We go back to increasing that budget, right, to 1.5 trillion. Jordan said, sorry, universal health care is just too expensive, though. And that's the part that I wanted to point out to people that I think is important. Whenever you ask, why can't we have health care for everybody? If you ask, why can't we all have paid family leave, which just should be a given, by the way, you'd think that'd be the norm. When you ask these questions, why we can't have these things, you know what the politicians usually come back with? How are you going to pay for it? Who's going to pay for that? That's going to increase taxes. But whenever they talk about increasing the defense budget, increasing military, you never hear those politicians ask, how are you going to pay for it? And that's the thing people need to pay attention to. Now, they have managed to keep us divided by, pointing fingers and calling some people radical leftists, dirty commies, and all these types of things. But at the end of the day, they have been playing in our faces. They are noticing more and more that we're starting to agree on the affordability issue, which they don't like that. They're noticing we're starting to agree with the anti-war issue. They don't like that either. And they're going to try to put a stop to that. Why do you think you keep hearing Trump and JD Vance say radical leftists? It's the left. It's all them. Because as long as they can keep their supporters hating the left, we will never come together for any type of serious class coalition and target who it really is about, the people at the very top. That's what it's really about. But as long as they got you focusing on it's your neighbor, hell, your neighbor will probably save you before they do. These people ain't coming to save you. They're not coming for you. Not these politicians. So that's where all the money's going, folks. It's going to defense. It's going to the military. That's why you don't have health care for everyone in this country. It has nothing to do with, oh, that's socialism. Oh, that's communism. No, they just put the money in other places. Nobody is attacking the United States. We are not under attack. If anything, we're the ones attacking other countries. So there's no reason to increase that budget that way unless you're about to start some more shit. And there you go. So we all got to wake up. I think most of you that watch me or have already woken up, or you did at some point in time. If you're new watching, though, just keep in mind that we got to wake up. We got to wake up. And I think there are different ways to go about doing that. One, we got to build dual power. And if we're going to build dual power, that means, guess what? That means that you can't just build dual power with someone who agrees with you on every single little issue. You can't. That's not how that works. So pay attention to that budget, folks. Pay attention, guys. Follow the money. Follow the money. Let's go to some of the super chats. Sorry, guys. I think these have built up. Sorry. Thank you for the super sticker, KM. Thank you, Russ. Happy New Year, everybody. Sabby and Eric, looking forward to another fantastic podcast. Let's go. Keep up the great work. Thank you. Thank you, Glimmer. 2 people just shot in Portland, Oregon. They are in the hospital. That's all I know for now. Here we go again with another one. Oh, boy. JB says, hello, everyone. I hope you all are doing well. He said hello to Naheem and Ali. Thank you, LRWS. Sabby, I sent you a note via your website from RN Solutions, your documentary, and someone interested in speaking with you. Please respond so I can forward his info. Okay, I will check my email. Thank you for letting me know. Married at First Sight. I'll watch that show sometime. Thank you, Devotion. Blakely said, why not apply state charges in Minnesota? That's a good question to ask Governor Walz. You know, it seemed like to me he just kind of folded. Thank you, Kevin. If only the radical left were as president active in the U.S. as Donald J. Trump keeps claiming they are. Thank you, Zaldivar. Over and under 60% chance that the murderer is IDF. Oh, Zaldivar is asking for the over-under. I'd say over. I put me down for over. Thank you, Roger. Congrats, Boston. The fight is home in the States. Whoop, whoop. Yeah. Whoop, whoop. Thank you, Logically. A big issue I saw is that the ICE agents immediately go into provoke mode with the swearing, intimidation, and surrounding her car. No de-escalation. Yeah. It's crazy too. Like I said, like she wasn't even under arrest. Like, thank you, Gamble. Wouldn't authorities need to articulate a threat to even detain her, let alone use deadly force? What was the apparent impetus for the aggression? I'll tell you, Gamble, I think some of these guys peaked in high school. Some of you know what I'm talking about. Those guys that peaked in high school. And then it's like after high school, they ain't had nothing going on. So they got a gun and a badge so they can be big and tough. Thank you, Covert. Black people have suffered arbitrary arrests and deadly force for centuries, combined with smearing the victim. Hopefully and sadly, white folks see it now. Yeah, I was noticing that online where people were just kind of like, they were surprised. I'm like, I don't know why you surprised about that. Shout out to Walter Beasley, jazz legend, for the chat here. 3 shots, no way. Yeah, 3 shots. Thanks, Gamble. We can talk all around this as civilly and intellectually as we want, but it won't change the glaring evidence that we've been occupied and co-opted. I hear you. Thank you, Logically. Tribalism is the enemy of critical thinking. Thank you, Roger. Support Cynthia Brown, Ohio, CBIA, to make qualified immunity unconstitutional for all government employees, not just law enforcement. Thank you, Logically. Rewatching Better Call Saul lately has given me a refresher on the law and how it should work. It's actually a very educational show in that way. That was my show, man. If you guys never saw Better Call Saul, you got to watch it. If you've never seen Breaking Bad, like, what are you doing? So start with Breaking Bad and then you watch Better Call Saul. But yeah. Shout out to Aziz for becoming a Sabby member. Let's give Aziz a big whoop, whoop. Yeah. Thank you, Roger. Gravity has taken control and is in effect. All right. Thank you, Gamble. Our peace always on the other side of destruction. Thank you, Measured Man. I want you all to remember, even though done, they are automatically enrolling your kids for selective service, and they gave a heads up last year. We checked and it's done. Head on a swivel. Yeah, I forgot about that. Thank you, Roger. Okay, all y'all living in big cities, get out. Thank you, Measured Man. They had an entire preacher use slightly saying God told him that oil belongs to the U.S. Say what now? Must have been lowercase g. Yeah, it's getting crazy out here. Thank you, Roger. Cities often first target, move to the suburbs and country. Thank you, Texas. I can't believe collectively all people of these nations, we will fall for a third world war on false pretenses. This occurs as economies collapse or depression to cover the government's asses. That's a good point. That is a really good point. They're trying to take your attention away from the economy. And thank you, Ray. Is the Green Party on the sidelines or complicit? You would need to talk to the Green Party. I'm not a member of the Green Party, right? I mean, Jill Stein is still like doing things like in terms of activism. I know Butch Ware is running for governor of California, but you really would need to talk to the Green Party. Thank you so much. Okay. Quick announcement. Next mutual aid workshop. I told you guys I'm doing another one this month is January 24th. It's a Saturday at 11 a.m. ET. If you want to participate, I will send the link for that via my Substack newsletter. So for those of you who are signed up for my Substack, you know, like I usually send a lot of announcements that way. So I'll send it there. If you're not signed up, but you want to participate, just make sure you sign up for my newsletter. Yeah. So the link for all of that is on my website. And that's in the description of all my videos. Yeah. That's part of that dual power I was talking about is mutual aid. Okay. Now it's time for some good news. Can we get some good news? Yeah, some good news. This is a big one. I got to give credit where credit's due. You know, I told you guys when Zohran was running, if he were to win, I thought he would govern more like a moderate. And I said, like, let's see what he does when it comes to those domestic issues. So as it stands right now, it looks as though when they made the announcement today via press conference, that New York City is on its way to getting some type of universal childcare. And that is something that Zohran Mandami did run on. The announcement, I first saw it here. This is a big one for those of you in New York City. Big news from Governor Kathy Hochul on childcare. She will announce today that she's committing to fully fund the first 2 years of Zohran Mandami's implementation of free preschool for 2-year-olds. And I'll get into the details more about this. I think this is what they're starting with, and then they're going to, you know, increase it. But the key thing here is that she's willing to fully fund the first 2 years. So when people were asking where was he going to get the money for that, there you go. Also, don't forget Kathy Hochul is also running for re-election. So I think that may have something to do with this as well. I think it has something to do with it as well, is that she's saying, you know, I'm up for re-election. So the people in New York have made it very clear where they stand about affordability. So I better get right on at least this issue. So this was the announcement again. This is pretty big. Governor Hochul state of the state investments will commit to delivering affordable childcare for nearly 100,000 more kids. Make pre-K truly universal statewide. Partner with New York City to launch the new mayor's signature 2Care program and finally realize the promise of universal 3K access in New York City. Support other counties in building out new child care pilots that offer high quality, affordable care to families regardless of income. This is the big one, regardless of income. And expand child care subsidies to tens of thousands of additional families. Okay, the big thing here for me is when it says regardless of income, because that means that they won't continue to have it means tested. You guys know how I feel about things being means tested. I think that it singles people out. And I used to feel that way when I was in school and there were certain kids that got free lunch or reduced lunch. It kind of singles them out. And then, you know, sometimes the kids will feel some kind of way as though like everybody knows my family is poor. You know what I'm saying? So I feel like just do these things regardless of income. Now, this is a big one because Zohran Mandami ran on this. This is one of the issues he ran on. And it goes to show you how quickly he said, okay, I just got into office. Let's see what we can go ahead and take care of. Now, the big thing that stood out to me was, you know, removing that IHIR definition of anti-Semitism. That to me was a big one. That's the geopolitics, right? But the other thing here is that this is now domestic policy. And, you know, some people voted for Zohran because of the Israel issue, but some people voted for him because of just the domestic issues, because of the affordability message. And so now we see the pivoting to these domestic issues. They held a press conference earlier, and I want you guys to see it. This is a big deal, you guys.
Either people are saying, instead of getting together and talking about planning for that baby, maybe painting an extra bedroom if you have one. I don't know who has an extra bedroom anymore. Paint the living room. You should be talking about that. But instead, they're talking about maybe we can't afford to have kids at all. Maybe it's not going to be part of our dream. Or sick and tired of trying to figure all this out in a patchwork system that's not working. And they get worn down by the stress of it all. Hey, sweetie. They get worn down by it, right? This takes a toll. But you know what? At some point, they might just say, I can't do this anymore. I have to leave a place I grew up in, a place I love. That, to me, is tragic. When someone leaves, we're all diminished. Our state, our city, we're sapped of the collective vitality and energy that each family and each child brings.
And people are leaving. The numbers do show that when we look at the states that people are leaving, New York, Massachusetts, California, expensive states, right? So people are leaving. And yeah, that is reality. Like, people just can't afford to have kids. And everybody that leaves New York, especially New York City, doesn't necessarily want to leave, but they just can't afford it. It's like if they want to even try to have a family, they're like, I can't afford to do this here. Like, if you make $90,000 and you live in New York City, that's nothing there. And I don't think some people don't understand that if you never lived there. Like, I lived there, so I'm telling you that's nothing there. So it's gotten to that point, right? Now, we can look at this both ways. We know Kathy Hochul, like I said, is running for re-election. So I think she's supporting this and got on board for this because she wants to stay in office. She wants to be reelected, right? And the fact that Zohran won, that said something to her. Whoa, this guy beat Andrew Cuomo. He beat, the corporate guys. He beat someone who was already governor of the state. So that sent a message. So if she wants to even have a chance of winning re-election, she had to get on board with these policies. All of those things had to line up at the same time, right? So it's like you can have someone run for office and have an affordability message, but the reality is if it's the governor that has to sign off on some of these things, well, then it's like you're in a better position if the governor might also happen to be running for re-election around that same time. You get what I'm saying? If they want to stay in office. We'll go on a little bit more here, and then we'll get to what Zohran said as well.
They're growing up in a different state. And for decades, governors have promised some form of child care, but never delivered. And I'm here to say, the era of empty promises ends with the two of us right here, right now. We've laid the foundation since I took office, and I announced this in my State of the State exactly 1 year ago, that we'll be on a path to lay the groundwork for a robust universal child care system statewide. We've already invested $6.5 billion in our state child care assistance program, dramatically expanding the eligibility and capping costs at $15 per week for most of those families. That's incredible. We've doubled the number of children served by vouchers. We also knew we had a workforce shortage, especially after the pandemic.
And then she gets into the pandemic stuff, which we all don't need to go back down that road again. We all remember, at least I do. I mean, I was there, so I definitely remember. Let's go to the next part here. Why are we at this part? Oh, there's obviously something said here. Sorry about that. We'll go to this part here, and then we'll bring in
When your
Zohran.
child is okay, then you're going to be just fine. And so that's the power of affordable child care. It gives parents like Mariah and others the foundation they need. And I'm proud to deliver on this very ambitious plan with existing state revenues. We got it done. We found a path forward, and there's nothing going to get in our way. And I want to continue focusing on these transformational plans and the support we're providing, Mayor Mamdani, to make our collective vision become a reality.
Okay, so let's get to the part here where Zohran comes in. I think I put it right about here to talk about this a little bit more.
We take one step to realizing a city where every New Yorker, every family, every child can afford to keep calling it their home.
Yes.
It is an honor to be here in Flatbush alongside Governor Hochul. Governor, thank you for your partnership and thank you for your leadership. And I want to say thank you to the incredible organizers, advocates, elected officials that we have here at every single level of government who have willed this day into existence. Truly, thank you to all of you. To those who doubt the power of the people to make their own destiny, to the cynics who insist that politics is too broken to deliver meaningful change, to those who think that the promises of a campaign cannot survive once confronted with the realities of government, today is your answer. This is a day that so many believed would never come, but it is a day that working people across our city have delivered through the sheer power of their hard work and their unwavering belief that a better future was indeed within their grasp. We stand here today because of the millions of phone numbers that were dialed, conversations had, voicemails left, each of them a New Yorker speaking to another New Yorker, each of them making the case for a future that working people could in fact afford. And we stand here today because of the untold stairs climbed and doors knocked by volunteers who encouraged neighbors they had never met to imagine a New York where a dignified life was in fact possible. And we stand here today because of the young New Yorkers who were no longer willing to accept that the joy of beginning a family had to be paired with the heartbreak of moving away from a city that they had always loved.
And it's a problem happening all over. I'm sure like Eric and Corey, they're in the background here. They can tell you the same thing here. It's like people keep leaving these cities because they just, it's like if you want to even try to start a family, you just can't do it. You got to get out. So people keep moving away. And New York is one of those cities that people continue to leave and leave and leave, right? But I want to point something out here. If Andrew Cuomo would have won, this does not happen. Andrew Cuomo really didn't have a plan per se. He basically just ran on, I'm not the socialist and I'm not that crazy Sliwa guy. And I governed the state. That basically was his thing. But if Andrew Cuomo would have won, this doesn't happen. Remember, he was against these things. He said, there's no way you can do that. You don't have the money to do it. It can't work. Eric Adams, what did he say? We don't have the money to do that. Can't do it. It can't work. But somehow magically, Kathy Hochul managed to find or come up with that money for the first 2 years at least. So what do they mean when they say you don't have the money that can't work? It seems like the money was there. They just didn't want to use it for this.
In short, my friends, we stand here today because of a movement brave enough to make a promise and even braver to know that it could fulfill it. Today, that movement, that fight, that New York has won. And if this moment where I stand alongside our governor marks the dawn of a new day, we know that it does so because New Yorkers have lifted it themselves. With their own hands, their refusal to accept that government could not deliver the change that they knew was possible. And that new day will cast a light across our city. It will be felt by millions of New Yorkers, by Mariah in this room, and by so many others across every single part of the city that we call home. It will be felt not only when we make pre-K truly universal, but expand this care to include all 2- and 3-year-olds across the city. As the governor said, we will deliver to care by working in partnership with childcare providers, especially home-based providers.
That's a big one, the home-based providers, because a lot of times these people are overlooked, right? Like, what about the people who also, they're taking care of kids like in their home? Like, it's not an actual daycare center or brick and mortar, but they have the license and they are caring for children in their home. So that is a big one.
Who have been doing this work without thanks or recognition for far too long. We will build on the city's existing 3K program and say no longer will a family in Flatbush be offered a seat but have to find out that that seat is in Astoria. We will add seats in the neighborhoods where demand has not been met. This will be felt by expanded subsidies for tens of thousands of additional families. It will be felt when parents look at their bank accounts at the end of the year and see that they have saved more than $20,000 per child.
Okay, guys, everybody, if you're in New York, where my New Yorkers at, you guys got to better hold them to this. I have friends in New York, so I will be checking. I will be checking. I'll contact Professor Zinkus, all you guys. I will be contacting you saying, hey, I just want to check. Like, make sure you stay on and make sure this happens. Because, they already had the press conference now, we know you got the money. They can't say they don't have the money anymore.
It will be felt when neighborhoods no longer feel hollow and empty because those we love haven't been forced to move away to raise their children elsewhere. It will be felt when our children receive high quality care and enjoy better outcomes later in life as a direct result. And I want to be clear, this will include children with disabilities and children who live in our shelters.
Okay. That's a big one too. Making sure that you also include students that are, kids that have disability, because that's an important one. Shatter said she's been okay with NYC childcare and expansion in the state. But that tells you the mayor probably wasn't, the previous mayor, Eric Adams, huh? That's what it seems like, because this is just getting pushed now. And I want to remind everybody, I think we covered this story a couple of months ago. Eric, remind me, I believe it was New Mexico. Yeah, New Mexico just started universal childcare. New Mexico. So, and that's for the whole state. So this could, spread around. This is what I was telling people. Like, if you support those populist policies, I do feel like we have a better chance of accomplishing these things on the local level. That's what I continue to see happen. We would compare it to the federal level. I live in Massachusetts. We've passed a lot of progressive policies, but again, like I said, on the local level. So I just think that it shouldn't be overlooked, right? I think there should be pressure there to get those things in the works.
This will be felt when our economy hums with the hard work of parents who are able to return to the jobs that they love, rather than have to quit because they can't afford to pay for care. And that feeling will not be abstract. Its mere absence has been measured to the tune of $23 billion in a single year of economic productivity in this city. I want to express how proud I am of this victory that we have achieved together, the political will we have mustered together, and the partnership between city and state government that we will enact this movement's vision together. And I stand here on this stage alongside our governor in deep recognition that for too many years, the relationship between Albany and City Hall has been defined by dysfunction and discord, by feuds and by factionalism. Petty grievances have interfered with the work of serving the people. Political posturing has consumed the attention of those with the power to transform lives. And I am deeply committed, alongside this governor, to charting a new course, one where people look to government and expect collaboration, not competition. And I am deeply grateful to count Governor Hochul as a partner in this work.
So this is a good thing. Like I said, this is a positive. I think sometimes people are so used to being cynical that they don't know how to call a win a win. And the reality is, yes, I've been saying this for years, something needs to change with the childcare system. Just to give you a perspective, years ago, I looked at the daycare costs for the Boston area, which includes Cambridge, Somerville, etc. You know how much it costs to have a daycare, to pay for daycare in the Boston area? This was years ago now, so I'm pretty sure it's higher than before. At that time, $3,500 for one child per month. Someone do the math for me. 3,500 times 12. I don't have the calculator thing on here. 3,500 times 12. Eric, I think you're the math whiz around here. Anyway, 3,500 times 12. 3,500 a month. Do you guys know at the time, I wasn't even making 4,000 a month. So imagine you're not even making $4,000 a month, but daycare is 3,500. Thank you, honey buns. I knew the math people would show up and show out in the chat. $42,000 a year. And that's one child. Now imagine if you have more than one. That's insane. And if you're just starting out, depending on what field you're in, you may not be making $42,000 a year. And that's why people are leaving the cities. That's why they're leaving those cities and they're moving to places that are more affordable, because you're basically breaking your back to try to pay for daycare for a child, and you have to pay for the daycare because you have to work. And then, you know, if you try to do it the other way around and say, well, I'm just going to stay home and just let, you know, my spouse like work, that don't work out either, because you got to pay these damn bills. You know, gone are the days where one parent had to work and the other parent could stay home. My mom was able to do that. You know, my parents are boomers, you know, they boom, boom. And my parents were able to do this, you know, this little agreement where, like, when my mom had me, she stayed home with me until I went to kindergarten. So they didn't have to pay for daycare. Then when I went to kindergarten, she went back to work. When my mom had my sister, she did the same thing. She stayed home till my sister went to kindergarten, and then she went back to work. That was the boom, boom lifestyle, right? So I don't know anyone that can do that today. Everybody I know work. Everybody I know have a job. Every couple, every married couple, every, you know, girlfriend, boyfriend, like couple that I know, everybody got a job. So, you know, you do the math. So they keep telling you people need to have kids and that we need more people and there needs to be more, you know, families, but they don't tell you all the costs that are associated with all of that. They don't tell you how much daycare costs now. Now, if you're lucky, maybe you're, you know, one of your parents are around. That's not the case for everybody. Maybe they could volunteer to babysit if they're retired. But even some of the seniors now are at this point where some of them have gone back to work or to pick up smaller jobs to pay for medication. It's a common story. So again, yes, of course, support universal childcare because the shit is too expensive. And people need to ask themselves this question. Like, if you're one of those people where you want people to have kids, but you know they can't afford daycare, you need to come up with a strategy for them. It's just like, because it doesn't make any sense. Like, I know plenty of people that probably would have started having kids a lot sooner and would have had more kids if it wasn't for the cost of daycare alone. So things have changed. This is a win for New Yorkers. You guys keep me posted there, all the people in New York. But if it continues on this path, it does look like, hey, this is one of the things that he ran on, that he said he was going to get done, that it seems like he's already putting it out there in the forefront. And so stay tuned. Let's go to some of the comments here, ladies and gents. Thank you for the super chat, Roger. Zohran used leverage to get us New York HA, Healthcare Act, and New York PB Act. You should tell him that. From what I understand, Zohran has meetings. You should go to one of his meetings and tell him that. Justice says, keep rocking out the good news and moves when and wherever you find it, Sabrina. Thank you. Yeah, I think people, I think it's really easy to just talk about the bad stuff right now, but there are some good things happening. I do think it's important to highlight that. Justice said Mandami not to be trusted. You shouldn't trust a politician, but as I said, wait and see what happens. But I do think this is good news. Skylar said Kathy is trying to win re-election and needs Zohran as much, if not more, than he needs her. Thank you, Logically Dashing. Hochul equals Pelosi clone, grown teeth first. Does she kind of look like Nancy Pelosi now? I guess I could kind of see that. Kay says, yeah, a lot of people are paying $1,500 to $2,000 per month for daycare. So them now saving $20K for the year is definitely possible. Yeah, I just told you how much it is in the Boston area. So it's expensive. Okay. All right. Let's get to our final story, ladies and gents. This is an interesting one. If you haven't had a chance to do so, all right. Smash that like. Thank you. And if you're new, don't forget to like, sub, and share, just like a Care Bear. All right, ladies and gents, this is our last news segment of the night, and then we'll be heading into the weekend. All right. Something's happening with the podcast bros. Theo Vaughn and Dave Smith have both now just admitted that this thing with Trump ain't working out, that this Trump administration is terrible. And I think I'm putting it nicely, but you'll see what they had to say. And why does that matter? Why the turn? Why does that matter? Remember, Dave Smith and Theo Vaughn endorsed and supported Donald Trump in 2024. In fact, Donald Trump came on to Theo Vaughn's podcast when he was running for president. And I do want to remind everybody what Donald Trump said when they got into the affordability factor. You know, one of the things that Theo brought up to him was big pharma, healthcare, which is a big one, right? You know, I went back and I watched this earlier today and I realized that Donald Trump talked a good game. I see why he got people to, believe that he was going to do the right thing. We're going to revisit this part here when Theo Vaughn interviewed Donald Trump when he was running for president in 2024, and they're talking about healthcare and how the system is so screwy, right? Listen to this, because this is important, because Trump ain't really moving on the affordability factor. And that's something he really ran on, was the economy. Check this out.
But we have a lot of popularity. We have a lot of people that want to see me come back and win, because we had a great time. We had the greatest economy in history when I was president. We had
my cousin got a boat.
Numbers. Yeah, we had the best job numbers. African American, Hispanic American. If you look, Asian American job numbers, women, men, everybody. We did a lot of good things. We cut taxes more than anybody else, including Ronald Reagan. We cut regulations, which created jobs. We had a great period of time, and I think the people want it back. Based on what I'm seeing, the people want it back.
One thing that you did recently, we had Bernie Sanders on,
right?
And
interesting.
And I know
that's very interesting.
Certainly, you guys don't agree on a lot of things, but I think you both acknowledge how horribly rigged the healthcare system is against the American people. Because hospitals and insurance companies get away with hiding their prices from all of us, and literally they can charge whatever they want. You know, it's like you sign up and say, yes, I'll pay. You trust the hospital, but then you get home and the bill it's whatever, which pretty much feels like some form of extortion to me. That's what it's.
I'm laughing not because of what he's saying. What he's saying is true. I was laughing because of the look on Donald Trump's face. Look at the look on his face when Theo said the word extortion. I don't know what it's saying. But listen to this. Sorry.
Seems like to me.
It's a form.
But you had an executive order where you created a federal rule forcing hospitals and insurers to publish all their prices.
Yep.
Right. So that people would be able to know, okay, if an MRI costs $600 here and it's $5,000 there, then I can go here and save myself money.
Right.
But that hasn't even been enforced. Like hospitals.
Biden got away with it.
Hospitals and insurance companies, they're still not showing their prices.
They hated it.
Of course they did.
And because it would have made it very competitive. And Biden let it go. He never enforced it. And to get that approved was a big deal. And that would have brought down the price of
so many things.
Not only, just care, right? Care, physical care, mental care. That would have brought down the cost of care by 50, 60%. And Biden and Kamala didn't press it. It was a big thing to get it, but I'll be pressing it. And because I'll be pressing it, and because I'll be pressing.
Okay, I just want to pause here and I'll let this part finish in just a second. So he said that's something that he will be pressing. So yeah, he's like, well, Biden didn't do this. Okay, yada, yada. But Biden's not president anymore. This is why I keep bringing this up. So we are now in the second year of Donald Trump's presidency. Why hasn't this changed? So again, this was something that he ran on, something he was really vocal about. So this is why sometimes it's good to go back and reflect. Let's continue.
There are some people that are vehemently against it for financial reasons, for money reasons. But
those people can go to hell, dude. That's insane.
Yeah, no, they're bad people.
Especially because one of the leading causes of bankruptcy in America is medical debt. I mean, that's crazy. And I don't even think I made that up either.
No, it's when you think of it, at first when you said it, I said, wow. And then I'm thinking about it. I said, it's really not a wow. I understand it.
Yeah.
Tremendous lobby, tremendous powerful lobby.
Well, yeah, because think about what else is going to put you in medical, in that much of a debt. It's like, I believe that's accurate. Who's behind the healthcare insurance, that whole thing? Like, who's behind it all? It feels like Chuck Schumer is this kind of like deviant mastermind back there somewhere.
Well, he's one of the people that is hurt, and he's one of the people that keeps the prices high. And he's, gets a lot of contributions from the people on the other side. And him and plenty of other people, a lot of people. It's a very powerful lobby.
But wouldn't they
So you guys hearing all this, talking about the powerful, big pharma like lobby there in Congress. So you guys are listening to what's being said here, right? Okay. Why haven't these things changed now? This is one of the domestic issues that they talked about. Why hasn't it changed? And I wanted to show you that because now, and this is something we got to talk about. Theo Vaughn and Dave Smith, they're calling out Donald Trump and the Trump administration. And before we get into that, I do want to remind you, Dave Smith was actually one of the first ones that I saw come forward and call out the bullshit. Like, I'm not kidding. Just a reminder here. Just literally not too long after Donald Trump got into office, Dave Smith was one of the first ones to come forward and say, yeah, I was wrong about this guy. In fact, he went on to say he should be impeached. Listen to this.
It was in 2007 that the Pentagon told George W. Bush that we cannot go to war with Iran because we do not have escalation dominance against them, essentially meaning that they can hit all of our bases and embassies in the region, and we are very vulnerable to them. And we've already seen demonstrated since the Israeli attack that the Iranian, the missiles that they sent last year toward Israel, as many of us guessed, that wasn't really their best. They were intentionally making an attack that wouldn't really hurt anybody, that wouldn't really lead to a war, which Iran has done over and over again. But now we've pushed them to the point where they probably don't feel that they have the option not to respond. And Donald Trump telling them to come back to the negotiating table now is a joke.
Yeah.
I mean, what a impotent leader to be sitting there talking about coming back to the negotiating table. It's like sitting after Pearl Harbor and telling FDR, now's the time to go negotiate with the Japanese. Yeah, right. Negotiations are over now. The time for negotiations was before this. And so, yeah, Donald Trump looks, and man, I supported him this last year. I apologize for doing so. It was a bad calculation. At the time, it seemed like the right one. But he should be impeached and removed for this one. Wow. And not on some not on some ridiculous Nancy Pelosi. Of course, the Congress will never do it because they're all a bunch of corrupt hacks.
This is the one thing they support. This is like
Donald Trump should be impeached and removed for this. All of his supporters should turn on him. It's the absolute betrayal of everything that he ran and campaigned on and everything that he stood for. And I will say, despite the fact that, Donald Trump supporters have been labeled like a cult following, and that certainly is true for a percentage of his supporters, he is going to lose his coalition over this. I don't just speak for myself when I say there are a lot of us who simply will not go along with this. So it's just a devastating mistake. By the way, on top of that, he's also going to lose the deportation fight because of this. Because right now he needed all the political capital he could have to turn that, you got a majority support for deportations, but the minority is very mobilized and they're out and they're protesting all around the country. He needed all of his political capital for that move. So here's what we got. The neocons win. More war abroad and, bomb the world and invite the world. No matter who you vote for, you always get John McCain.
And there you have it, folks. And I just remember that, like, he was one of the first ones who supported and endorsed Trump, came out very early on and said, whoa, I supported this guy, but holy hell, he's lost his mind. He's trying to get us in, war with Iran. Like, I take it back. He should be impeached. So that is one thing I will say about Dave Smith, is that he admitted that, not good decision that he made, but he's willing to admit, like, this guy is doing some crazy shit and he needs to be impeached. Now, I want to go on to this conversation between him and Theo, because now both of them together are talking about this, that like this administration is off its rocker. And I think it's important that it is coming from them. Now, some people say, what's the big deal if it's coming from, them or someone else? Well, they supported him and they have large microphones. Like Theo Vaughn has a large microphone, Dave Smith has a large microphone, and they supported him like vocally, right? Joe Rogan has come forward in some ways saying like he doesn't agree with some of the things that Donald Trump are doing, but these two are doing this together. And I think it does say something. And I got to add one more thing. I really feel like Donald Trump and JD Vance manipulated the podcast space. They knew that corporate media is dying and it's falling apart, and the younger peeps are, more people are watching like YouTube or streaming elsewhere. So they feel as though, well, that's one of the best ways to get in touch, especially with the younger viewers. So let's go on to these political podcasts or any of these podcasts that are on YouTube, that are on like Rockfin, etc., Rumble. Let's do that, knowing damn well, and I say this, Trump knowing damn well that he was not going to be a peace president, knowing damn well that he had already taken that money from Miriam Adelson and he was going to do Israel's bidding. And a lot of these shows that he went on were people who wanted the genocide to stop. Theo Vaughn was one of them. I don't know if he went on Dave Smith's show. Joe Rogan was one of them, people who had been calling out what was happening there. And I feel like he played that space. He played the political podcast space to make people think that he was just like a little bit more independent, cool kind of guy who just wanted to fix the economy and was going to stop the wars. Listen to what they say here.
Let's talk about so it's been a year since Trump's been in. You said some of his base is kind of split now. It does feel a little bit like there's like this. How do you feel like Trump's done in his first year? Like, what are things he's done that you like?
Well,
and obviously,
I think he's been terrible. And I assumed he probably would be a disappointment. And I supported him last year just because I thought, like, all things being considered, it was better for our country that he win than Kamala Harris win. And also the Democrats just so deserve to lose. Like, you just can't reward that.
Well, Kamala, I just saw the Kamala.
We had a senile president and they all pretended we didn't. It's just too crazy.
That was too crazy.
They also, their policy on COVID, their policy on Ukraine, and then don't forget, they were a full year into back in the genocide when it happened. So they were, they deserve to lose. Donald Trump has done a really good job in securing the border. Right. We had a really open border under Joe Biden. We have a secure border now. Aside from that, it's just been disastrous. I mean, I just couldn't, and not even just disastrous, like the policy was wrong, but just
disastrous. Not bad, not mediocre, disastrous. And I'm telling you guys, like, I never thought Trump would be good. Like, I never thought Trump would be good. I was like, well, Trump's going to be bad. But Donald Trump's presidency this time around, it is worse than his presidency the first time. Like this, I really do feel like he has really gone full scale chaos. And I think that's what he wants. I think they want chaos. I think him, because he's a billionaire, and all the other elites, they want chaos because they believe that out of chaos and destruction, there will be order. I definitely think this, man. I really do. And it's crazy. Like, nobody does all this shit that's so chaotic back to back to back to back for just for, you know what I mean? Like, whether it was the National Guard, whether it was the ICE agents, whether it's the let's just go after bomb boats in the Caribbean, like, you know, all this stuff back to back to back, and nothing on the economy. Nothing. People still can't afford prescription meds. It's insane. It's like he just stormed into Chuck E. Cheese and he kicked all the kids out and he said all the balls and the pizza are for him. I don't know if they still got Chuck E. Cheese around, but it was basically this kind of, you know, event gaming kind of place where you could take the kids to for like a birthday party. And there was like a little mouse named Chuck E. Cheese and he used to dance around. For those who don't know, it's just like he just took over. Just took over. It's really weird. And like when you listen to him talk recently, he's like on some world domination bullshit. Listen to Donald Trump recently, his most recent interviews. It's like he's talking about global domination. It's insane.
The way they handled it. I mean, the handling of the Epstein scandal that goes down in history as like the worst handling of a scandal I've ever seen. Literally, from all these guys running on, we're going to release this stuff. Pam Bondi having that thing where she gave the influencers folders, the binders.
Remember them holding the binders up in the distance? And then it turns out there was
nothing in them that was new. And then they pivoted on a dime to there's no such thing. I don't even know what you're talking about. Right. You're crazy to think there was a thing to be released. Like, it was, and then to turn around, and then they turn around, and Mike Johnson said it will end the political order if we vote for Thomas Massie and Ro Khanna and Marjorie Taylor Greene's bill to release the files. And then they turn around and get pressured into voting for it, and now they're just redacting everything, and like it's just, I mean, just he lost so much credibility on that. Obviously, the I think bombing Iran was terrible.
Well, let's go one thing at a time.
Sure.
The Epstein. Yeah.
So they're naming them off. And this is important, guys. Like, they're naming them back to back to back. The thing that drives me insane about the Epstein files is that Donald Trump, it's like he continues to do other actions to distract you from the Epstein files. You know, it's like every time something else is announced about the Epstein files is, oh, I'm just going to go bomb a boat in the Caribbean, or we're going to go kidnap Nicolas Maduro. Or, oh, let's just unleash ICE agents everywhere and let them beat people up, and even American citizens. Like, that's just what it seems like to me. It's like, it's wild. Two, the other thing, the number of pro-Trump accounts on social media, mainly X, who said all this stuff about calling out Epstein and protecting the kids when Biden was in office. And the moment that Pam Bondi and Donald Trump said nothing to see here, they just tucked their tail between their legs and they kept it going. All of a sudden, they didn't care about those underage kids anymore. Like I said, it's all political. It's all partisan. And that part to me was the craziest. Like, all the people who said protect the children, who all of a sudden decided not to care about the damn children anymore because Donald Trump told them not to. Crazy.
Bring up some of those pictures that they just released too. What was with the photo drop right before Christmas? It's all so bizarre. Like, what is that a picture about? If you're a married guy, you know what I'm saying? Like, what are you doing there?
Yeah, I mean, like,
if you're a married 60-year-old guy.
Yeah, listen, I'm never going to be in a position with some chick like that. I'm a married guy. It's a weird thing. Yeah, I mean, now again, it doesn't give us that much more information, and we don't see her face, but sure does look a lot younger than him.
Yeah, go through some of these. I mean, this is kind of, I mean, it's all just kind of wild.
Kevin Spacey and Bill Clinton there.
And was this at Epstein Island? Allegedly. And there's some photos. This is the best thing. Look at these photos. Everything redacted in them. These could be photos from anybody's phone. Everything redacted. And then one mark of the beast or something from Zodiac Killer on the one that he'd drawn.
Yeah.
On. Just bizarre.
I just want to add, since he mentioned Kevin Spacey, there was a kid in Massachusetts who accused Kevin Spacey of sexual assault. And I think I think this happened on either Martha's Vineyard or the Cape. And he accused Kevin Spacey, and it was like a big deal. It was like big news a couple years ago. Somehow Kevin Spacey got out of that. I don't know if like people put pressure on the kid. And then all of a sudden it was like, let's just like walk this story back. I don't know. I feel like maybe he got pressured. I feel like he got harassed, maybe threatened as well. But Kevin Spacey on Epstein, allegedly on Epstein Island, according to the Epstein files. I just had to mention that Kevin Spacey, there was a trial. I can't remember if it was public, but it was like a big deal. And Kevin Spacey got out of it. And it's just so bizarre. Like other people in Massachusetts, they can tell you about it as well. But I feel like I think the kid was threatened. And I think that's why it was like, walked back or whatever. But it was pretty detailed from what I saw when it was reported on the local news here. And the next thing I knew, Kevin Spacey he got out of it. He's another Zionist too, by the way.
Bizarre. I mean, it's just like
it's so strange.
Why? Man. Why would they just show us some of this stuff right before the holidays? Are they just trying to like everything? Now you have to think, is it trying to distract my attention from something else, And the news reports, they don't even tell you about the real shit that's going on anyway.
Yeah.
So most of the stuff that's happening, here's the crazy part. We don't even know anymore. Yeah. Like most of the most serious shit that's going on.
Yeah.
We don't even have a clue.
Well, I think part of the thing, look, the Epstein, the whole story is so like, it's so dirty. It just stinks. I mean, you just look at it and you're like, dude, look, we know what we know, but knowing what we know, how could you possibly piece this together that it's not some huge scandal? Right. I mean, like already when you just go, okay, so there's a guy who was convicted of pedophilia or convicted of soliciting prostitution from an underage girl, then a decade after he's convicted, or at least 8 years after, he's still like in the most influential circles with all these. And then for national security reasons, You're telling me that this has to be hugely redacted? Like, what the hell? This just makes no sense. And his connections to Ehud Barak and Mossad now all being known. It's just too crazy.
And here's another thing. We don't know that any of this stopped, by the way. Just because Jeffrey Epstein is dead, we don't know that any of this stopped. That trafficking could still continue right now. They can change places, they can change faces, they can change names. We don't know that ended. So that's the other thing about it. Let's get to part 2 of this as well. Like I said, the big one, I think that tells people, the reality that this is just all partisan was the Epstein thing. All the people who complained about Epstein, and they get to this part here as well.
Do you feel this way? But I just find myself over the last year just really getting tired of a lot of this stuff. And like, it'd kind of be like one thing. If Trump was doing all the right things and then you wanted to rename the Gulf of Mexico, the Gulf of America, you'd be like, yeah, okay, sure. Like that's fun. And I like triggering libs as much as the next guy. So like, that's fun.
Or let us have a game each year, a competition, and whatever country wins a competition, it's like in America, South America, whoever wins gets to name it, gets to have it for that year.
Well, that was a great idea. But it's like now after like, when you're just like kind of like being Israel's bitch and then you're burying the Epstein stuff, but I repeat myself, it's like, and then he goes like, we're renaming it to the Gulf of America. You're like, shut up, dude. Like, give me something serious.
Yeah.
It starts to feel like you're just insulting me. It's like you start like bragging about how you're redoing the White House or how much nicer it looks than when Joe Biden was there. Like, I don't care, man. Like the average guy, like people who are making $70,000 a year can't afford to live.
Yeah.
That part. that part right there. Donald Trump is doing everything except for enough for the American people, or things for the American people, or the economic issues. That's where he's not doing that. He's blowing up people. He's kidnapping people. He's protecting traffickers, his Epstein friends. By the way, who has friends like that? He's protecting them. He's doing everything except for something for the American people. Remember when he was running for president, he said that he was going to turn it all around, that Joe Biden and them ruined the economy, and he was going to fix it and get it back to where it was. But he out here blowing up everything else, increasing the defense budget to 1.5 trillion. Money going here and there, but it's not going to the people. So yeah, it's almost like, and like I said, he was bad during his first presidency, but during this presidency, I swear to God, it's like, this is even worse. Like he's even worse this time. And it's weird too. It's almost like some people asking questions like, is there some type of dementia that could be going on there or whatever? Because it's just like, I don't even think he knows what he's saying sometimes. And don't get me wrong, I think he's good at being a liar. He lies a lot, but I don't think he knows what he's saying sometimes. Just like I told you how he got caught in the lie with the New York Times reporter just recently. It just like, you just be saying shit and you don't know why. And here's the other thing. He knows that this is probably going to happen. The Democrats are probably going to win the midterms because Trump is pissed. He's pissed everybody off. He's just blowing things up. He wants chaos. So the Democrats are probably going to win the midterms, and he knows what's coming after that. Because if they win the midterms, then they can file for impeachment. Now, impeach doesn't mean that you're removed from office. It means that you have filed to do so. You filed to have this hearing, and there would be a vote. And then depending on the vote, that would determine if you're actually removed from office. I think he could actually be removed this time. I really do. Because like he's just doing some crazy shit without the approval of Congress.
Real thing that we live in a society now. In my grandfather's day, you could just work. My grandfather worked at a factory. That's all he ever did. By the end of his life, I think he had been made floor manager of the factory. But that was his whole life. He just worked in factories. All his buddies worked in factories. None of their wives worked. They all owned homes. They all had 2 cars. They played poker on the weekends. They sent their kids to college. They participated in like the country, in the ownership class. They owned their house, you know? Today, a 25-year-old, even if they got a job where they're making 70 grand a year or something like that, they're living with a roommate.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like and the chick is working and they don't know how the hell they're ever going to buy a house. The average house is going for 700 grand.
Yeah.
No idea how and it's like,
and they're ovulating stressed eggs, and then they're making DS Down syndrome children half the time.
Yeah. Yeah.
And those kids are back in the factories. You know what I'm saying? Like,
well, we don't even know because there's so much goddamn poison around, and you know all the stuff that Bobby Kennedy always talked about. It's like I don't know any of which one of them was the culprit or not. It's like, is it the fact that we do 50 vaccines now instead of 12, or that there's plastic in our water, or that there's all these chemical? Like I don't know, that all our food's over processed and all this shit. I don't know, but it's bad. We lead the world in disease.
Come to America where we don't care if we take care of our health or like our procreation. You know?
Think about.
Well, we care, but we may not have the means or the finances to do those things. That's really what guys, is capitalism. I don't know how many times to say it. It's capitalism. That's the problem. And you know, I know some people, like a lot of my friends, don't feel as though capitalism is to blame. Like most of my friends feel as though that we need to have some type of restrictions on capitalism, like it's gone too far, right? So like most of my friends don't feel like I do, that like it's just capitalism. Because I don't feel like we can have restrictions on capitalism because we have a billionaire class. And as long as we have a billionaire class, people will always be exploited. That's how they became billionaires in the first place. So it's like, you can't have capitalism without exploitation. And as long as there's exploitation, people are always going to try to find ways to be greedy. And so that's why I don't think that there can be restrictions on capitalism. It would be nice if that worked, but it's just there's a lot of greedy people in the world, and people who have vast amounts of wealth that just want to hoard it and keep it to themselves, even if that means that all the people that work for their companies can barely afford to make it right now. And they have 4 roommates and they're eating Easy Mac and those damn Top Ramen. Actually, no shade on Top Ramen, because you can hook that up. You can hook it up. You can put an egg in Top Ramen. You can actually, cut up little sausage, put that in there, and then just put some green onions in there, make it all fancy and stuff. You like hot sauce, I guess you can throw that in there too. But anyway, I think that's really what it is capitalism. And here's the thing. The younger generations are starting to see that more and more. And the more people complain about affordability, the more people get closer and closer to criticizing capitalism. And that, I gotta tell you, the elites, they really want to shut that down. They don't want you to see that capitalism may be a problem. They keep trying to say socialism is this dirty word. The word socialism doesn't even hold the weight that it used to anymore. So that tells you something. No shade on the ramen though, guys. I do like ramen. I prefer not to have the Top Ramen, the one by Top Ramen. There's better ramen out there.
Even the Epstein thing, which look, nobody knows exactly, and I guess probably will never know exactly the entire details of what type of intelligence operation this was. And even when people say oh, he worked for Mossad or something like that, you're like, well, somebody doing what Jeffrey Epstein was doing wouldn't have been an employee of the Mossad. You know what I mean? They would have had an actor outside. We know already that he was organizing meetings for the Mossad and Russian oligarchs. We know that Ehud Barak was coming over and staying at his house and stuff. And that that Alan Dershowitz was his confidant and his lawyer. So he's all tied up with Israel and the Israel lobby. But so if it is what it looks like, which is are you telling me that a foreign government that, by the way, is our welfare state, that we pay portions of our taxes to every year, you're saying they ran an op to rape American children, American girls, to compromise people, or at least there were American girls raped in the process of this network of events, and that you're covering that up? What?
Yes, and that's the thing, and that's what I'm saying. They're covering that up, and it's insane to me. And Donald Trump says jump, people say how high. Donald Trump says nothing to see over there with those Epstein files, even though there's all these pictures, and people say, okay, Dad. It's wild. And I think it's because people want a hero, people want a savior. And it's once you decide that someone is your hero, it's hard to turn that off. It would be like telling a little kid that Iron Man is a bad person, when they're a kid, it would be like saying that. Or a little kid that Hulk or Wolverine. When I was a kid, X-Men was kind of, a big thing. And it would be like someone coming to me and telling me that Wolverine and Storm are terrible. And, so I think that's a big part of it. And people don't want to reckon with it. And people don't want to hear it. They just want to believe that their person is the hero, the savior, and anything that they say, they're going to believe it. And that's dangerous. In fact, that's called a cult. And what we are not going to have on this channel is, I hope you learn something every time you come over here, guys, because what we're not going to have on this channel is people need to be free thinking here. And sometimes I say things you agree, sometimes I say things you don't agree. That's cool. That's the real world. What we are not going to have is a cult-like mentality. We don't need another David Koresh. We don't need another Waco. We don't need none of those things. People are free and they can think for themselves. And I think that's the scary part to me, is when people feel like they can't do that. I'll tell you something, a little secret. You want to hear it? Here's something. That was a bad place for me to stop that video. I'm sorry. during the Biden administration, there were a couple of liberals that reached out to me that told me they were not happy. They actually regretted it. Voting for Biden and Kamala, regretted it, but would not say it publicly because they didn't want to be ostracized. Not kidding. Got to remember, I live in Massachusetts. And now I'm starting to see that there are people who also are not happy with Trump. And some of them have said it publicly. Some of them called it out publicly and said, what the hell are you doing? This is ridiculous, da-da-da. But then there are also some, even in that camp, that are afraid to speak out about it publicly or around their friends or their family, because guess what? They're afraid they're going to be ostracized. And that is the cult of personality. And that's scary. So when I see Theo Vaughn and Dave Smith coming forward and saying like, yo, this guy's lost his damn mind, like that type of thing, like he says this disaster, that's good. I can say that because I didn't vote for Donald Trump, right? It doesn't hold the same weight because I didn't vote for him. I think when people who voted for him are saying those things, I think it holds more weight and I think it has a greater impact. And I think it says something when you can admit, hey, I messed up here. Because at the end of the day, like I said, I think Donald Trump just wants chaos. That's what I feel like we're living in. We're living in a chaotic state. And people just don't know. People are stressed. And my advice that I can give to you guys is at the end of the day, make sure you take care of yourself. And I take care of myself different ways. Meditation is a good one. There's free meditation videos on YouTube. Look them up. There's a guy that I watch all the time and he just plays with these little bowls on the floor. I'm not kidding. They're like these little Tibetan bowls. And he has this little tool that he like brushes across the bowls. One of you might know what I'm talking about. But anyway, it's very soothing and relaxing and it takes the stress away. Thank you so much. I knew one of you would know. The singing bowls, right? It takes that stress away, right? So I think it's important, guys, that you do not allow yourself to just remain in a chaotic state. It's important that you find ways to release that stress and that tension. And whether that's going to the gym, going for a walk, walking's a really good one. If you like to run, going for a run, lifting weights, like I lift weights, I work out, but I also do the meditation. And I think that's important. You don't have to be spiritual to listen to these things, these videos or whatever, but the sound of it is very calming and soothing. And I think that's so important. So through all this chaos, I hope that you can find some time to have a little bit of calm. All right. Oh, Skylar said, oh, the bowls that make this. Yes, people know what I'm talking about, right? Yes, I know you guys know. Yes, Janine said, I listen to those for sleep. Love the singing bowls. Yeah, that guy that I watch. I'll see if I can show it to you guys real quick. Corey, you don't have to include this in the, don't include this in the clip because people are probably like, what the hell is this? For people who just want, yeah, this guy. Yeah, his name is Aura Bowles. Right? See, there's one called Pure Calm. I'll play it for you guys. They have sleep ones too. I don't know if it'll play. I'm already I'm already ready to snooze. I gotta go. I think Eric's gonna come in and close out the show. But
yeah,
these are the
don't put
bowls.
yourself to sleep here.
I'm telling you, it's so soothing. These are the bowls. But yeah, if you guys check out, he's just one of the channels. There's others, but his name is Aura Bowles, and he has a bunch of them that a bunch of videos that calm your nerves and videos that help you sleep. Yeah.
So we had some people in the chat talking about some other type of bowls they like to participate in.
Hey, I guess that helps you too.
Whatever gets you through the night, right?
Whatever floats your boat. All righty.
All
Bye,
right.
guys. All right, guys. I'm heading out for the weekend. Eric's going to close out the show. Have a good night. Keep up the fight.
All right. I'm going to do a little show closeout here. Read some of these super chats. Maybe say a comment or two. Yeah, one thing with the interview with we had Dave Smith and Theo Vaughn. One thing I always like to go back to for analyzing things is the old MCDS, right? Money, corruption, demand, solutions. Like if you go to 11demands.org and it's featured, of course, prominently on there, right? But it's about it's about using this for analysis. Okay, money, corruption, demand, solutions. So in the case of what these guys were talking about, right? Theo Vaughn and Dave Smith. I like to talk about what they're not getting to, right? The dots that they're not connecting to. And what you'll notice that they don't talk about, they don't mention are who's at the top, right? Who's really at the top of the economic system and at the top of the power system, who's pulling the strings, and that's the billionaire class at the top. And the billionaires get there through exploitation. And the biggest talent of a billionaire is making money off of money, right? They always start with a certain amount of money. They're usually the sons of millionaires, and then they turn that into a lot more money. That's their big talent. It's essentially extracting that money from the 99%. They basically steal from everyone. So that's the billionaires at the top that that just don't seem to come up somehow. Then you get to the C. Right, those billionaires take a certain amount of their money and they funnel it back into Congress and the political system. That's the corruption, and you definitely have to start there, right? You have to get to that point, but then you have to, even beyond that, if you're really going to get somewhere and do more than just calling out and just saying what the problem is, you need to get to the D, the demands, and among those demands, at the top of those demands is get rid of the corruption. And when you start doing that and saying, we have to get rid of the corruption, you get quickly to the solutions because you have a clear demand. Clean it up, fix the big money. And that gets into things like regulating campaigns and campaign spending, constitutional amendment to say money is not speech, corporations are not people. And so when you have this discussion with Theo Vaughn and Dave Smith, they're not talking about the billionaires, they're not talking about the corruption is the big thing, because if they start doing that, then that's going to lead them to some uncomfortable places. Now, maybe we can get this type of demand-based movement far enough where it gets big enough and becomes the thing that's on everyone's mind and a core part of the conversations, and then it'll be impossible to ignore. So that's kind of the goal is to try to grow this type of thinking, this kind of a demand-based movement. And if that's of interest to you, check it out at 11demands.org. The other thing that Sabrina mentioned was, capitalism. And I agree that capitalism, is a core problem in this. What I would propose is yes, we need to be criticizing capitalism. We need to be, I think, framing it in positive ways and saying we can do better than capitalism. But I'm not sure that politically leading with that is the best strategy, because it is the simple fact that a lot of Americans are just not ready to say capitalism is a problem. But you know what most Americans, well, really all Americans are ready to sign on to and agree with? That corruption is a huge problem and our government is just deeply corrupt. So I would propose that we lead with the corruption and make that a doorway to doing better than capitalism. Anyways, that's a little bit of MCDS 11 Demand spiel for tonight. And yeah, like I said, check it out, 11demands.org. If you're more interested in that, we're going to be, I think talking about these things and these concepts more and more as the year, as we get more and more into this new year. And we just have to be careful that we need to be sure, what's happening is getting more and more chaos and more of these incidents, like these ICE shootings and so forth. We just have another one developing in Portland, Oregon that we'll probably be talking about on the next show. We'll see what facts come out of that one. And we have this chaos, like I think Sabby's theme of the night, right? They want chaos. So it's up to us on the other side of that, the 99%. We need to be sure that no matter how outrageous these incidents are, how bad they get, we don't let them distract us so much that we lose track of what the real fight is here. We need to always be connecting the dots. Trump is in office because both parties and our government are deeply corrupt, and the root cause of that corruption is the billionaire class. So we need to keep our eye, focused on the MCDS as ways to analyze it. And we have to keep in mind that nothing really gets better until we fix the big money corruption. And that's the ball that we need to keep our eye on. All right. We've got a few super chats queued up here from a little earlier. Let's see what we got in the old queue. Thanks for this super chat from Devotion Orange, who says, I believe they like war because it amuses them. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure it is for some of them. And, mostly they like war because it enriches them. A lot of billionaires got that way through, selling arms. And, war is the racket, like old Smedley Butler said, war is the racket. And so one of our demands needs to be peace. Demand peace. And they shout out to Trash Panda for being a member for 4 months and using their special member anniversary monthly chat to say, it's Wag the Dog on steroids. There you go. And thanks for this one, Noah Leiden, who says Trump is trying to burn the world to the ground because he can't accept his own mortality. The older he gets, the more destructive he becomes. And I certainly agree with the sentiment that he is a dangerous person in these dangerous times, and it's not the kind of hyperbolic thing that the Democrats called out in Trump's first term, where they made it this whole big thing, orange man bad and whatnot, and he wasn't even that different in a lot of ways, especially in the first term. But in the second term, it has gotten to a really dangerous point. And while in the first term, I saw the impeach Trump movement as a political game, a political circus, I feel like at this point, impeaching and removing Trump really may be a matter of survival. And, we may need to just do that to save the world. So we'll see where this goes. It's kind of shocking and disappointing that the Democrats aren't using all of this to make a real impeach Trump movement, just as a matter of safety and survival. Now, yeah, that'll mean that it'll end up with President J.D. Vance, but and it's not going to be great. But maybe it would be. I think it would be less crazy, a little less dangerous. A J.D. Vance president, who knows? And shout out to Russ here for this super chat. He says the MAGA ship is sinking fast. This is why they are gearing up for war. Wake up, MAGA or MAGA. That's and of course it's part of the game. And also thanks for this one. So much for America First. Wake up, MAGA. All right, thank you, Russ, and thanks for this super chat, Mizbon, who says here's a hypothesis. Donnie is doing this because he wants to be kicked out of office on January 23rd, 2027. That way, the assassin J.D. Vance can have possibly a 10-year run as president. And thanks for this one, Mrish. He says, "Oh, those bowls, you got me confused." Oh, well, yeah, we were talking about them bowls. And shout out to Smart Art Productions for the super chat. It says, Aaron Milan, you're complaining for Trump in Australia still? Oh, campaigning, saying Aaron Milan are campaigning for Trump in Australia still. Yeah, I mean, it's still a political game to a lot of these people, and they'll still try to ride Trump's coattails. And thanks for the super chat, Mountain Star Studio, who says math equals quadrillions versus trillions versus billions. All right, thanks for that. Okay, that's going to about do us for the old show tonight. You can catch Sabby Sabs live next on Sunday. I always have to look at what day of the week is, because I don't remember the day of the week unless it's on my computer. And it says it's Thursday, so that means the next day of the week will be the next live show day for Ms. Sabby Sabs will be on Sunday. It should be at 5 p.m. Eastern time. So hopefully we'll catch you all then. We'll see what we got. We'll see what we got for you then. What the latest, newest chaos has gotten to, and until then, as Sabby likes to say, keep up, have a good night, and keep up the fight. And we'll see you next time. Thanks, everyone.